Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Nate Nippelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy, and in this episode, Blake and I are continuing our annual projection series in which we review our projections for every fantasy relevant player on all 32 NHL teams. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend. It's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are you feeling tonight?
It's good to see you, Nathaniel. Always good. I mean, damn, we say it all the time, but it's too long, right? Once a week, it's not enough. But I'm very excited. We got 4 really fun teams locked and loaded here. I've been putting some polls out on YouTube to see what team people are most interested in, and that's really fun. And in this one, Florida was the one people are most interested in, and that's the last one, folks. So you have to stick around. This time we're going 3.5 hours. We don't give a damn. All right. But yeah, we're having a good time. Anytime I get to stare at this handsome hunk of cheese right here, holy moly, just makes a man feel good. All right, buddy, how you doing?
Not too bad. It's been a week in San Antonio for work, so hopefully the tan is coming along nicely. It was 38 degrees and humid every single day, so that was special for me. I'm glad to be back in the land of relative coolness. But let's go
Always cool where you are, buddy. Come on, don't be modest.
Nice.
Okay.
Let's get right back to Texas. We're starting this one off with the Dallas Stars. Key departures here, Maverick Bourque, cap casualty for them to be able to sign Jason Robertson, and Ilya Lyubushkin moves out as well in that same deal to Nashville. Key arrivals, last year they acquired Tyler Myers en route to the playoffs, and he'll stick around for another year. My big question here, Blake, can this team that really wasn't good enough to challenge the elite in the West last year, can they be better this year despite what looks on paper like key departures, greater sign, key arrivals?
Oh God, what a loaded question. How much time do we have, Nathan?
Apparently 3.5 hours.
Yeah, we're that's fine. You people are here. We appreciate you, but yeah, I mean, this doesn't look good, but obviously their cap situation was a problem. They had to get Robertson signed. That deal was strange to me. Yeah, like a 1 year. I guess it makes sense, but it doesn't sound like everyone's fully like stoked on everything there. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see another key departure next season. But for this year, they're locked in. You got Tyler Myers under key arrivals. How dare you? Okay, damn. No, I mean, the man has one of the world's longest necks. We know that. But that's really, after that, everything's downhill, right? He's good in the room, so that's nice. But no, I think that we're going to have to see some development from some of the players here. They have a couple bits and pieces, guys, that are going to be plugged into the top 6 here. And yeah, but I mean, the loss of Maverick Bourque is a tough one. And obviously, if your cap situation is good, you're trying to retain that player.
For sure. Yep. It's something that they had to do to get Robertson signed. I've heard too that like some of the players were like not thrilled that Robertson wasn't signing, and like I don't know how you can possibly make that argument based on the way the NHL has gone this season. Like, why does Rantanen get his $12 million, but Robertson can't ask for more than that when the market has clearly gone up a lot more? Anyway, sidebar there. Let's talk about everybody's favorite, Glenn Gulutzan, returning for his second season. Obviously, he put together a pretty elite power play unit, but the big question, I think, for both of us here, Blake, is can he improve the Stars' 5v5 play, which was surprisingly bad last year?
Yeah, I mean, he has his work cut out for him. That's for sure. Digging in on this episode, like trying to see what happened last year at 5-on-5. It was a lot of like Gulutzan moving the team away from creativity and more kind of rush attack that Peter DeBoer likes, right? And that's great for fantasy. We love that, right? But as we've said in other episodes, increase in rush play also equals an increase in rush chances coming back, right? It becomes a little bit more difficult in transition. So Gulutzan moved away from that. And I think there was a bit more structure there at the, cost of some shots on goal, right? Like Dallas Stars were one of the lowest shots for per 60 teams at 5-on-5 last year. How? right? Like that's egregious. All right, with these players that you had, right? So I mean, that's not the greatest thing. I also, something that I saw when I was looking at Dallas too, like they were the fourth in the league in man games lost last year with 389 in terms of injuries. So we'll see. All that to say, we'll see. I think Gulletson is going to have to find a way to generate more at 5-on-5. I still think this power play is going to be great. But yeah, it's he's going to have to be less rigid, right? It's a very tactical structure that he does there, and I think he needs to let, especially his top couple lines there, let that leash out a little bit so they can get to biz creatively.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I do think that they have kind of like a weird forward group in some sense. Like Jason Robertson, Mikko Rantanen, definitely more like slow it down kind of guys, not the most fleet of foot guys. But then you have the Matt Duchenes and the Roope Hintzes of the world who like can speed it up and enter the zone with speed and use that to their advantage. So I do think they are just kind of like uniquely polarized almost in terms of their forward core and like their absolute top of the lineup players. So I do think there is like a weird piece to that, and it's maybe Gulletson is thinking it's easier to slow things down than speed things up for guys that don't play with pace as well. But I don't know. I feel like you trust guys like Robertson and Rantanen to figure that out as well. And overall, I don't think you can look back at last year and for Gulletson to think that was a success at 5v5, what he put together. And so I at least hope he's gone back to the drawing board a little bit this offseason and will cook up something a little better for year two. Let's talk about this power play. I think it's pretty locked in. Robertson, Rantanen, Johnston, Hintz, Heiskanen. I think they should bring similar levels of prestidigitation to the power play this year as they did last year. I think people really don't believe in Roope Hintz, and he's still elite on the power play. Like, he's unbelievable when you really dig into the underlying numbers. But that being said, there was really no fall off last year when Hintz was out and Matt Duchene came in. That really worked as well. I think you've got Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn also in the mix as fill-ins. Benn is usually effective whenever he's mixed into the power play. Seguin obviously missed basically all of last year with his injury, but if he's able to come back and be what he was before, then he's a legit option again as well. How do you view this power play? I know we've talked about it a little bit this offseason already.
Yeah, not that different from last season. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Obviously, like when you put out a power play the way Glenn Gulletson does, or Glenn Gulletson teams do, obviously he's not the one running the power play here because he's the head coach, but what he did in Edmonton and what we saw here in Dallas this season was kind of a free-flowing play. Like, again, like I'm talking about at 5-on-5, let the creative players improvise a little bit, and a lot of movement. You and I have talked about the Dallas power play as well as not having one main guy that's kind of driving everything, right? And I think they're all really good at bits and pieces, and you got a guy like Wyatt Johnston who is one of the best power play shooters in the league currently. Like, this guy's unbelievable. He's amazing off the wall. He's amazing on the bumper. And then, like you said, Roope Hintz, he may not have the power play numbers, the raw numbers that we want to see, but this power play, when he's out there on the ice, like you mentioned this like 3 years ago, I think, like his on ice shooting percentage on the power play is elite, and it's elite every year. This guy just, when he's out there, he's connecting plays in a way that equals, scoring chances and ultimately goals. So I'm a big fan of the power play. I think it's going to be Miro Heiskanen again. Obviously, if he gets injured, then we're looking at Harley. If Hintz gets injured, which might happen, we're looking at Duchene. And I really don't see a difference. Like, they have the pieces that can jump up, like stashes that can, keep the power play afloat while those players are out.
Absolutely. Let's dig in on the projections here. Let's start off with Wyatt Johnston. I have him for 41 goals, 44 assists, and 85 points. I have him for 42 goals, 42 assists, and 84 points. Pretty tight on that one there. I like Johnson. I do get a little bit leery of these profiles that are super dependent on high power play production. I'm for 39 power play points out of these 85. So that's a huge reliance on the power play here. But I could also spin that the other way and say, he can't be as bad 5v5 as he was last year. And so that could improve. So you can't really have it both ways, obviously. All that being said, I think Wyatt Johnston is just that dude, and he's going to find a way to score around a point per game with about 40 goals when all is said and done. So I at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident in Wyatt Johnston being in and around this projection when all is said and done.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is that there's some wiggle room at even strength, like to get better with the shot and chance production, and to maybe absorb if that power play isn't as strong. So I think we're looking at a similar season for Wyatt Johnston. This guy had 86 points in 82 games. I think we'll be right around there. Like you said, though, like that came with major power play numbers. This guy had 27 power play goals last year. That he went bonkers, 42 power play points. So you and I have regressed him a little bit there and some of his efficiency, I think, but yeah, I just think it's a really stable player. The question is, where are you drafting stable players like this? You know, this is not a sexy pick, but Wyatt Johnston to me is a very safe pick that I think is going to be on a lot of winning squads. Honestly, like this is a guy that's been durable so far in his career, hasn't missed a game, right? And yeah, I think it's a somewhat boring pick, but could be a really safe one. Is that sort of how you're seeing it as well?
Yeah, I definitely think that he fits into that category. The problem is, like, in the range where he goes, I think there's a lot of guys who kind of fit that category.
There's upside there too.
Yeah, so for context, in our APL mock drafts that we were conducting in the Apples and Ginos Discord server, which is a link in the description that you should go click right now, we've run a whole bunch of mocks. The last 10 mocks that I've got data for here, he's going at an ADP of 26.1. Obviously, that's the early third round there. And like Kyle Connor and Cole Caulfield and William Nylander go right after him. Like those are all guys that you can definitely contend should be taken over him. I'm just looking at my ranks in terms of like my raw projection here. It would put him at 32nd just in terms of raw fantasy points per game. So yeah, he might be going a touch higher, but you are probably paying a bit of a premium just to feel secure about that point total. I think probably I'm a little bit lower than the current ADP that we have here, but in the third round, I think that's a reasonable spot for him. All right, next up we have Jason Robertson. I have Robertson for 45 goals, 53 assists, 98 points. Blake, you have him for 44 goals, 47 assists, and 91 points. This is actually the biggest difference between us on any Dallas Star player. I have him 7.2 points higher than you do. So let's dig in for a second here. I have him also for 39 power play points. What do you got there?
I've got J-Rob for, that's a good question. I wasn't ready. 36. So there you go. 36 power play points.
Okay, so that's a little bit less than half of it. At even strength, I've got him for 16 minutes, 15 seconds, average time on ice, 70% IPP, 12.75% on ice shooting percentage.
Yep, usual stuff. I'm a little bit lower. I've got the same ice time, 69% IPP, nice, and then just a flat 12% on ice shooting percentage at even strength.
Okay, so you've got a little bit more regression on the on-ice stuff there, which is obviously shown up in the assist totals. Yeah, overall, I think we've seen this out of J-Rob in his best seasons. Like, obviously, he has that 100-point season to his name already from a few years ago, has a big year this past season, huge shot totals. I'm almost at 300 shots for reference. I just feel super confident in this player. He's going at an ADP of 13 in our drafts, and I think you could make a case to even sneak him into the first round if you really needed to. In raw projections, in fantasy points per game, he comes out above Kirill Kaprizov for me, for reference, who's obviously going in the mid first. So, yeah, if you're just going by raw median projection, then I think he is well deserving of being in that conversation. So, throw some cold water on it here, Blake. I'm getting the people steamed up on J-Rob. Give him the bear case here.
Yeah, I mean, my bear case is 91 points, folks. So,
yeah.
It's not, I love J-Rob, and I think that he's absolutely worth, a late first round, early second round pick. I think that's where he's going, and that makes some sense to me. To me, it's really just some of the potential changes. Like I said, 5-on-5, they weren't able to generate a lot of shots or chances. And truthfully, that does benefit J-Rob a little bit. I think he's definitely an end zone player. He's good in transition. He's not really a rusher, right? So I think like we saw a really nice season from J-Rob last year. I'm thinking about, we talked about Maverick Bourque leaving. Maverick Bourque played a lot with J-Rob last year and was a part of, his success. Exactly. So I've actually got Jason Robertson on a line with Hintz and Tyler Seguin. That's how I'm sort of seeing it. And then Ritzkovian and Johnston and Rantanen is my top. But we'll talk about those players later. But yeah, I think Tyler Seguin on the line with Hintz and Robertson it's a little bit of a different look, right? I mean, Tyler Seguin doesn't have speed. Robertson doesn't really have any speed. So Hintz is doing kind of yeoman's work in there. And it's just a little bit off the top, right? So I think maybe I'm being a little bit safer with my projection. Also, yeah, some of those reports we saw about the teammates not exactly being happy, and maybe I don't know what the whole thing was with J-Rob's contract situation there. It was bad, the last contract he did, but then he came out and went off. That was his best year after he, negotiated that last contract. So maybe that's the case here, but I don't know. There's a little bit of just a little bit hinky, and because of that, I've taken some of the efficiencies down a little bit.
You're not buying into the contract year narrative once again. He's got to put it up again to secure the big.
I think he'll get whatever the hell he wants after this. There's proof of concept here. It's not like he hasn't had a big season. He's had a couple.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, if he wants to walk, we'll take him in Toronto. That's for sure.
No, Vancouver. He'll be part of the rebuild, right? That makes perfect sense to me.
Perfect sense. Yep, we figured it out. All right. Next up here, Mikko Rantanen. I have for 32 goals, 62 assists, 94 points. You have him for 29 goals, 65 assists, and 94 points. 94.2 actually for both of us there. So pretty dialed on what we expect from Mikko Rantanen here. I think this is a case for me where I think we're really, especially with these top end guys, right? We're thinking about where we're going to take these players. And for me, this projection, he's not a volume shooter. Most of his extremely high end seasons where we were taking him in the first round for fantasy when he was in Colorado were tied to Nathan MacKinnon being one of the best players on the planet, and also B, getting actually 23 minutes a night on average. And that matters at this level. That's the difference between a guy potentially being a second round pick versus a first round pick. And so for me, when I just stack Mikko Rantanen up against everybody else in terms of raw fantasy points, he starts to fall back into more of that kind of not that far removed from Wyatt Johnston, not that far removed from guys like Cutter Gauthier, even like a Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, these guys. That's more the realm that he starts to fall back into for me in my projections, just a raw projection. Do I think that he could, have a great season and score 100 points? Absolutely, I do. And so, yeah, I'm willing to probably take him a little bit higher than that median projection suggests versus some other guys who I just don't think we've ever seen that level of production from. So I do think he's still like a second round player, but it's not a guy that I'm willing to really pump up at this point.
Oh, you won't have to. He's dropping like crazy. It's awesome. I've seen him late second. I've gotten in some of these mocks, I've gotten Ranto like early third. That's wild stuff, folks. This guy paced for 99 points last year. 99, right? And when he did come back, he was injured. He wasn't right. That was clear. Like Ranto was not right when he came back to play and into the playoffs, and he kind of gutted it out. But I think to your point, yeah, like this guy had some amazing seasons there with big minute totals, time on ice in Colorado. And, that's gone down a little bit here in Dallas, like we were worried about, still over 20 minutes, but the efficiency has maintained. Like that's what's really neat. Like even just going down his on ice shooting percentage, at even strength for the last bunch of seasons, it's been just as good with Dallas, if not better. And he's not playing with Nathan MacKinnon. You know what I mean? Plus his IPP has maintained and gotten even a little bit better, right? Like last year, he had a 78% IPP. I think that's the highest of his career at even strength. Yeah, which is not something I would project. And I don't think I did project that. Actually, I could just look and tell you what I projected. It was 72%. But I think all that to say, I think he's a guy that has his own gravity the same way Nathan MacKinnon does. He's not Nathan MacKinnon, so I'm not saying that. But this is a play-driving, elite facilitation player. He just has it. This is a superstar player, and he makes other players around him better. And he's maintained his efficiency even with limited minutes. He's getting a ton of power play time. That was something we were worried about, like 85% power play share last year. Like that'll play, right? And he only had 34 points on a really good Dallas power play and only 6 goals. So I think there's a little bit of headroom there on the power play with his efficiency. I just feel like he's uber safe and he's falling. So that's why I like Rantanen so much. If you get Rantanen in mid-second, I think that's major value, and I'm here for it all day. I hope I get a lot of Ranto on my team this year.
Last 10 drafts that we've done for the APL mocks, he has gone at an average of the 18th pick, so right in that mid-second, as you're saying. He's
Beautiful.
fallen to the third round 4 times across
What?
roughly
Just
25 drafts here.
just send me
So,
the trophy. Send me that trophy.
all right, next up, Roope Hintz, 28 goals, 39 assists, 67 points for me, 28 goals, 43 assists, 71 points for you, Blake. Think this is a guy that will probably continue to fall in drafts because he really has struggled to stay healthy year in, year out.
Mhm.
And that could be a real situation at this point. It's been a lot of similar injuries that could be connected, I feel like, with Rupe Hintz. Um, yeah, how do you feel about it, Blake? Like, I'm starting to feel like where he's gonna go, and I do think he's gonna fall into double-digit rounds in some leagues where there'll just be a group of managers who are not interested in touching him, almost no matter what the price is. In some of those leagues, then it's just like, okay, I'm gonna take him here,
Mhm.
and even if it's not great, I'm gonna be relatively happy. He's going 120th in the APL, which is basically the end of the 10th round. So that's a spot where, yeah, you can pick up a guy who might score 70-ish points pace whenever you need him to, and yeah, he might be out for a bit, but 10th round price, I think you're gonna sign me up at that.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Yeah, we talk about injury narrative a lot, and that's fine. I agree with you. I think that we've seen enough with Hints here. Like, yeah, there's some bits and pieces that are cause for concern, but I don't know. Last year, especially more than any other year, when I drafted Jack Hughes, and I was like, oh, this is gonna kill me, right? Like, Jack Hughes got injured in the one league I was in with him there, and I was able to kind of float the boat until he got back. I really think when players get injured, what matters more is when they get injured,
Yeah.
right? Like if Hintz misses games, okay, that's fine. Like maybe I lose a matchup because of it, but that's why you listen to Apples and Ginos. We show you the streamers, right? We value other players that are stashes that come in and actually do something. Like when I had Hintz in a league and I picked up Duchesne immediately once he got injured, and Duchesne popped the hell off. So that's how you kind of manage some of those injuries. So I'm happy to take Roope Hintz in the 10th round. That's unbelievable. And like I said, his efficiency on the power play in terms of what he's able to do and how he's able to make that fly. I'm really big on it. He's not going to get a ton of points there, but I also look at Dallas's playoffs and what they were like without Hintz. Like this is probably their most unsung player. This is a big reason, in transition, why they weren't able to kind of stack up against the big boys and why they were, they lost that series. I think he's one of their fastest players, definitely their fastest player, and he's really good defensively as well. He just does all those things that you want to have for your team that maybe don't show up in fantasy. So all that to say, yeah, give me 10th round Hints all day long, 70 points, bang. What if he pops off randomly on the power play? That would be unbelievable, 25. Like now we're looking at, 75-point Hints. Jeez, I'm here for this. Baby Dry, shut him out.
All right. Next up, Justin Ritzkovian.
Oh, yeah.
I have him for 13 goals, 16 assists, 29 points. You have him for 16 goals, 19 assists, and 35 points. You mentioned that you see him potentially getting a role higher up the lineup. He doesn't shoot a lot, which is concerning. Like, I have him projected for 96 shots in 84 games. I'm not sure what you got him for, Blake. Maybe a little bit more than that. But either way, it's not going to be hugely different. I'm for 131 hits, though, which is nice, 49 blocks. So he does bring some stuff there. The question is, will he get and cement a role in the top six just to, potentially level out some lines? That hasn't really been the way that they've liked to go about their lines in the past. But again, if they do deal with some injuries throughout the season, I could definitely see a case where they look at this guy who's quickly become a fan favorite there in Dallas, and they just start to promote him up the lineup because he's the guy with the most pop left of anybody that might normally play in the bottom six. So yeah, I can see some scenarios where he gets to this 35-ish point projection. How locked in are you on this that you think he's going to see significant top six time this year?
60%.
Okay.
Right. So, because we saw Sam Steele there as well. I think that's
Yep.
another option. That's a very common option that they've done with.
Terrible option, but it's an option.
I know, cool name though. Both these guys, Justin
Yeah.
Ritzkovian and Sam Steele. Sounds like Batman and Robin, like a modern version. But yeah, well, the thing I like about Ritzkovian is he reminds me a lot of Zach Benson in the way that he's kind of a chaos creator. You know what I mean? Like, he's that board battle guy. He's a net front guy, and he's defensively responsible, right? I think that's really a key piece there. Like, Johnston and Rantanen are no real slouches. They're fine, right? But Hritskovian can provide that element to maybe, if Gulletson does want to let the leash out a little bit more offensively, like you've got a guy like Hritskovian that can pick up the slack. He's good at retrievals. Like, he's good in the defensive zone, in zone defense. Plus, yeah, he's an agitator extreme. So I really like that element. And I think that a lot of players or a lot of teams in the NHL are kind of leaning into this model and finding out that, a guy like Logan Stankoven or Zach Benson, right? Like, Hritskovian is a poor man's version of both those players. But I think if he's elevated up the lineup, I don't think he's going to be out of place. Not to mention, he's amazing at faceoffs. So obviously, Johnston's going to be the guy taking faceoffs, but now you have another option. This guy was 55% in the faceoff circle last year. Really nice stuff for a young player like that. So I think that it could be wheels up. And I've given him like 35 points in like 15 and a half minutes. So it's not like I just think it's a guy we're probably going to be streaming in if he has that line one role, and he can do stuff, right? Like you said, 131 hits. I've got him for 114 shots. Not too shabby. So yeah, it's an opportunity play, and he's got an elite name. What else do we want?
That's true. You can't mess with a guy who's got an elite name like that. Next guy up, not so elite on the name front, Tyler Seguin. 24 goals, 28 assists, 52 points for me. 25 goals, 25 assists, 50 points for you. The most exciting thing I could say about Seguin is if Gulletson really does like that Johnston-Robertson pairing that he had last year with Maverick Bourque as the right winger there, then Tyler Seguin could be that guy who just steps right into that spot and becomes the third member of that if you want to call that the top line, if you want to call the Rantanen top line the top line, I'm not going to fight you too much on that. But either way, it would be a great spot for Seguin. That's probably like the only path to significant fantasy relevance. Although, like at a 52 point level, 25 goal ish level, that's a guy that you can definitely stream in.
Yep. I mean, I would bump him up a little bit more, honestly, if he wasn't just so coming off such massive injuries.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we apparently he's like fully good to go. That's what he's saying. He's saying all the right things, but the proof is in the pudding. We'll need to see what happens when he's out there. And this is a guy he's turning 35 this year. I'm not super hopeful. It's not like a Matt Duchene to me. Like, Matt Duchene is a big time offensive creator, and I'm excited to talk about Duchene. It was Duchene. I figured it out, but I think Seguin at this point in his career is kind of a play connector. He can't really skate, but I think he's going to be probably top 6. I think they have to. So I've got him with Hintz and Robertson, and I think we're going to be streaming him in. It's boring and whatever. I don't feel confident just because of the injury history there, but we'll see what he does in the first quarter of the season. This guy played his best hockey when he was with remember Marchand and Duchene. Like, that line, that was like the Carolina second line, right? They were just going off, generating a ton of expected goals, actual goals, super high efficiency. That was really good stuff. So he's got it in his bag, but now he's moving up the lineup, and he's going to have to sort of get in where he fits in with different style of players.
Yep. Agreed there. Matt Duchene next up. I have for 24 goals, 39 assists, 63 points. You have him for 21 goals, 38 assists, and 59 points. As you mentioned, next guy up for Power Play 1, which probably boosts his projection here a little bit for both of us. I have him for 19 Power Play points, even without Power Play 1 role to start the season, most likely. I just think, they're going to have injuries, and Duchene's almost always going to be next man up in that situation. And he's a pretty efficient, even strength player as well. And so, all that to say, I think he's pretty bankable in this range. I think he's draftable. I think he'll probably have some ups and downs throughout the season, but he'll probably actually have some ups that are legitimately very useful for your fantasy team.
Yeah, really. I mean, he's one of those guys, like he's a stash kind of. And like you said, draftable. I do think he's draftable, whereas I'm not drafting Tyler Seguin. But to me, yeah, you could get Duchesne on your squad. And even if he doesn't get power play one, you're still looking at like a pretty nice projection. Like I've got him for 59, but that's with 17 power play points. When this guy was elevated up and played a lot of power play one a couple of years ago, he had 27 power play points. Like he changes the look of that power play. But he's such a detail-oriented guy, meticulous, like very deceptive passer, and just, again, really connects things around out there. And yeah, they're probably going to be injuries. So I think he will spend some time on power play one. So I like the player. I mean, there's so many guys like 3 years ago when we were first kind of starting out that we used to talk Yang on. Duchesne was one of mine. Like I was like, get this guy out of here. No, I'm not interested. He doesn't hit, doesn't block, doesn't Julianne. Okay. But yeah, it was a guy that had really big efficiency, and he still does. And this is one of those players to me that you can kind of bank on high efficiency for a guy like Duchesne. Yes, there's a chance it falls off, but up to this point in his career, he's shown that he can maintain that.
All right. Jamie Benn still chugging. 16 goals, 29 assists, 45 points for me, 16 goals, 27 assists, 43 points for you. When I started doing this projection, I fully expected it to come out to like 22 points.
12
and then I was
points.
like, dang, like he just is that dude. Like commands a strong IPP, commands a strong on ice shooting percentage. When he's on the power play, he's scoring goals. Like he's still gonna be relevant some weeks this season. I'm not drafting him, but like I do think that he'll be on some fantasy rosters this year again.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add other than, yeah, he just keeps doing it. And we until he doesn't, we have to kind of respect that. And it's just a guy you need to keep your eye on. If he finds his way on power play one, or if he gets on a hot streak, like his line starts going, I've got him on the third line with Matt Duchesne and Sam Steele. Like access to Duchesne, that'll play for Jamie Benn. I think that's part of how I got to this projection with him. It's like he's still going to be getting high danger passes. This guy's a bull in front of the net, and he's got underrated offensive skills that he's kind of been able to adjust. Because he can't skate anymore. Like he's changed his game, and been able to stay efficient. Like you said, the IPPs are crazy. Like yeah, he had a 75% IPP last year, 73 the year before, 71 the year before that. Like those are elite IPP numbers of kind of a play driving player, right? So he's in on a lot of the goals when he's out there. So we can't discount it. I want to, but I can't. I mean, he's still rocking the slicked hair, the goatee. What are you doing? All right. Only NGN can rock a goatee. Jamie Benn, get the hell out of my sight. But yeah, I mean, if you're on a hot streak, I'll take a ride.
All right, last of the forwards is Sam Steele. I did not do a projection because I value my time. Blake did a projection for 12 goals, 23 assists, and 35 points. The only thing I think we'll say on Sam Steele is that if this is a Batman and Robin situation between him and Justin Ritzkovian, I think it's pretty clear Ritzkovian is Batman. He's got the main character syndrome, like we've seen this. And then you've got Sam Steele here, and I can just hear him saying, "Holy Ritzkovian, Batman."
Oh, buddy. Okay. You lost me until that last bit there. I was like, no, Sam Steele's Batman because of the name. But no, yeah, Holy Ritzkovian. That's what we're doing. He's
right?
Holy Ritzkovian. This guy. Yeah, expect to hear that more this season, folks. We're sorry about this, but it's Nate's fault. Sam Steele, elite name. I mean, I projected Ritzkovian, so I projected Sam Steele. Very similar numbers. Whoever gets line one is the person you want as a streamer.
All right, let's move over to defense. Asa Lindell, I have for 5 goals, 26 assists, 31 points. You have him for 5 goals, 23 assists, 28 points. Does block a lot, so he can be relevant in deep leagues as a streamer. If you need like a block streamer in a Cats league, he can do some of that stuff, but there's really no upside there. And yeah, no real path to power play time unless one of Heiskanen or Harley get injured. And even then, you might be looking at Nils Lundqvist now that he's in town. So anything to add on Lindell there?
No, not really. Block streamer, obviously, but did want to shout out, if you've listened to the past few episodes of the projection series here, I talked a lot about rushed exits in all three zones. Corey Schneider's data, and rushed exits is basically, when a defenseman goes to the defensive zone and they're rushed, how successful are they in the zone exit? And Esa Lindell was 5th in that metric last year, and he's partners with Miro Heiskanen on the regular. And we saw a really nice season from Miro Heiskanen. And I do think maybe I'm just forcing this. I don't know. But I think there's a correlation, right? Where basically we're talking about Lindell being this kind of elite defender in the way that he moves the puck out of the zone. So he gets it. He's being pressured with the forecheck and he gets it out safely, doesn't flip it out. He gets it out with a pass or a clean exit. And then you got a really good rushing defenseman like Miro Heiskanen connecting that play to some of the forwards. And I think we saw that in Miro Heiskanen's performance here this season. And shout out to S. Lindell, but really for fantasy, get him for blocks. That's about it. That's all you got.
All right, Miro Heiskanen, I have for 10 goals, 54 assists, 64 points. You have him for 9 goals, 52 assists, 61 points. I think he's back on the top power play. It went so well last year. I don't see why they're going to change unless he gets injured. So you can probably expect more of the same. The thing with Heiskanen is like the extra stuff there is not like spectacular. 168 shots is what I have him for, only 24 hits. 143 blocks is pretty solid, but like, yeah, I feel like in terms of all the guys that might score 60 points from the blue line this year, I don't know that Heiskanen is like the guy I'm going to get like super excited about.
I think he's always been that guy. And I'm coming around to that, like offensive production isn't the only thing we're looking at, right? You got a guy like Heiskanen, like you said, if he's not scoring and getting, 28 points on the power play like he did last year, the year previous, he had 7 power play points, right? When Harley was kind of cooking there and Heiskanen was injured as well. But there's, if offense isn't happening, there's not a lot there for fantasy. Right. But I mean, in real life, Heiskanen is one of the best defensemen in the league. This guy's unbelievable. Amazing skater, great in transition, great defensively, high danger passes out the wazoo. He's slick as hell. So I'm a big fan. It's just, for fantasy, I think Heiskanen is one of those guys that I'm picking up in a draft if I miss out on some other guys. I'm like, I better start getting like a power play 1 defenseman here. Oh, Heiskanen. Okay, I'll take Heiskanen in the 6th round. Like that feels good, with this kind of deployment. And there's always kind of the bull case of like, he could get 70, right? This guy got 73 points one year. I think that's a range of outcome for him. That's not what I'm projecting. I definitely think it's going to be closer to 60.
Yeah, my advice, if you're thinking about taking Miro Heiskanen, wait around and take Brandt Clark 12 picks later because you can do that in APL mocks, and that's something I do every single time. Next up, Thomas Harley. I have for 14 goals, 32 assists, 46 points. You have him for 14 goals, 32 assists, rounding down to 45 points. But obviously, we see this player quite similarly. I think it is a tough projection, or at least it was for me. I won't speak for you here, Blake, but I'm still like questioning, is he a bad fit for Gulletsen's system? Is it just a bad year? I think the tools are still borderline elite. Like you see it in the double-digit goal projection here, even without top power play usage. Yep. The skating is on display every time you watch Thomas Harley. So I'm still in a spot where I don't feel comfortable with it because I do think that the best case scenario for Thomas Harley obviously would have to include power play 1, but if he was in a spot with power play 1, like if that Zach Werenski deal had gone through and Thomas Harley was locked in power play 1 this year for Columbus all year and was going to skate like 26 minutes a night there as a direct Zach Werenski replacement, I think I'd be pretty excited about that. I think I'd be looking at him as a 55 plus point defenseman. But in this spot here, it leaves me questioning because he is trying to get most of his fantasy relevance at 5v5, which was the Stars basically their Achilles heel last year.
Yeah. I mean, I think we know what kind of player we have here in terms of the acumen, right? Like we saw what he was able to do internationally. This guy was unbelievable. So I think with Thomas Harley, he is one of the casualties of kind of this new system change that Glenn Gulletsen brought in. That's more focused on like, kind of slowing it down, tactical, as opposed to, again, that rush attack that Peter DeBoer deployed. Like, one of the things that Peter DeBoer did really, really well, they got his defense to like exit the zone quickly. Like it's like you get the thing right back up. And Thomas Harley is elite at that. Like he's unbelievable with his first pass. He can skate the puck out, right? Catching defenses like, before they can sort of get into their set, right? I think there was a couple things here with Thomas Harley. System change, new contract, condensed schedule, all that stuff, right? It's all excuses, and he's also blocked by Miro Heiskanen on the power play 1. So I think it's a guy we're going to have to wait a little bit on to really kind of boom for us, but he's only 25. I could see Thomas Harley in his career hitting 70. I could see him hitting 20 goals as well. I can't project that in good faith here, or in good conscience with the Dallas Stars, just because, yeah, he's locked behind Miro Heiskanen, and the system is a little bit different than one that would really benefit Thomas Harley, which is a rushing type system.
Yeah, agreed there. Let's move on to the last one here. I did a quick projection on Leanne Bichelle for the people in the Bangers Cats leagues. 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. But obviously, what you're more interested in are the 239 hits that I have him projected for there. Only 72 blocks, not a big time blocker. This is with 16 minutes average time on ice. So obviously, not a big time minute muncher, at least in the projections. So definitely a guy that you're going to want to keep on your radar, though, for your Bangers Cats. All right, Blake, we've got through one team. Next up, oh, wait, 3 targets. Give it to me.
Oh, man, you're out of control, Nathan. All right, but we're going to let it slide. We got top 3 targets for the Dallas Stars, folks. Number 1 for me, Mikko Rantanen. Like I said, I love that mid-second value for Ranto. I think he could return first-round value if he has a really good season, right? I think he's probably that's where he should be drafted. I mean, that's where his end of season value will be, but I just think it's going to be good value for him. Roope Hintz at number 2 for me, for all the reasons mentioned. I think he's kind of a really key piece for this team's offense, and I think that he's going to be a big piece in kind of returning them to better 5-on-5 play, more expected goals, better chances at even strength. So I'm a fan there. Then I got Matt Duchene as my number 3. Again, I just think you could get him as a stash. That's fine. But if he doesn't get the deployment we want, we're still looking at a 55 to 60 point player you can get way late.
All right, for myself, Jason Robertson, number 1, as I mentioned, going 13th in APL drafts. But if you go by my raw projections, fantasy points per game, he comes out as the 10th best player. So I'm loving that price there. Early second, get a guy who I think is a first-round talent. Matt Duchene, number 2. Same reasons we've mentioned there. Tyler Seguin, this is one I just want to put a pin in. This is a player that I'll be looking for those lines as we're getting close to draft season. And if I do see him on a Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson line coming out of camp, I will absolutely click him as one of my last picks and just see what the early returns are. All right, let's get into Detroit. I suppose we have to. Key departures here. Patrick Kane, Sebastian Casa also traded away for first-round pick there. Key rivals, Justin Falk they acquired at the deadline last year and promptly fell out of the playoff race altogether. Keegan Colasar is really the only player of note they've acquired this offseason. It is tough to look at this and to think that this is a good situation. You also have, obviously, the looming Dylan Larkin situation. What are you thinking? Just high-level thoughts on the Detroit Red Wings after the offseason so far?
It's been a rough one, right? Obviously, like no one can look at this offseason for Detroit and be like, oh, things are great. It's like, everything's burning all around you. And you're just like, yeah, everything says is totally fine. Yeah, Larkin will come back and all will be forgotten. Like, I don't know about that. Plus, we did forget in our slide here, like Victor Arvidsson is here as well
Yes.
as an arrival. So losing Patrick Kane, inserting Victor Arvidsson, that's a little bit of a different they're different kind of players, so they're going to have to adjust there. So that's going to look different. Justin Falk, that was a bust last year. This guy doesn't really make sense for what they're trying to do here, and now they're stuck with them. So I don't like any of that. But Keegan Colasar, get in my life. Oh, buddy, if you're in a Bangers Cats, this guy could get more minutes. He could get more minutes with the Wings than he's seen with Vegas, and that means more big, beautiful hits from this absolute unit. But yeah, rough offseason, no question.
All right, let's talk about the coach here. Todd McClellan returning for his 3rd season. I think he's one of the more meretricious coaches league-wide. I don't think it's been obvious. He's been unable to elevate what amounts to a pretty mid roster. Feels like the kind of coach who gets like the first year bounce back from guys, but he's not really gonna elevate a roster that isn't, good on its own merit. So that is a tough place for a roster that now looks tough and will look even tougher if Larkin leaves. Do you think that this is a guy who could keep them from a full sale just collapse if Larkin does leave?
I don't know about that, but what the hell is meretricious? My God, I had to Google it, folks. Falsely attractive, tawdry, and insincere. I don't know what tawdry means. So that's another one. I don't know. I'm going to have to Google that later, but falsely attractive is not something you suffer from, Nate.
Thank you, buddy.
Authentically attractive, right? Okay,
Appreciate it.
that's fine. But yeah, I think that McClellan is I think he's going to lose the room pretty quick here, depending on what happens. This is like he's one of these guys. He's not a dinosaur kind of coach, but he's like one of these kind of hard-nosed guys. Comes out and thrashes on his team, in the press, things like that. He'll tell it like it is, right? Hopefully, he's kind of keeping the players in the loop on that. But yeah, losing or this whole Dylan Larkin situation is very untenable. Is that the right word or use of that?
Yep.
Untenable. Oh, we'll edit that out.
It's good.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. But like that's going to be a major thing, a major loss. And you're already losing Patrick Kane. I just think, even if he hasn't lost the room, I think the team has kind of lost their identity. Right. And they might be sinking into the doldrums a little bit. They missed the playoffs 10 years in a row. Now their captain, who's from Detroit, is like, I'm out of here. Get me the hell out of here. I only want to go to Carolina, Vegas, Minnesota, Colorado, or Florida. Okay. Idiot. Yeah. But anyways, I don't think he's the guy to turn this around. I could see him having a pretty short leash here at the beginning of the year. And I could honestly see Detroit going into a rebuild mode if they come out the gates real gross, which I think is a potential.
Yep. Yeah, I do think all of that's on the table. This could easily be a case where we're looking at a new coach by December, even in a worst case scenario. So it's a tough one, no doubt about it. It's not ideal. I think we can say that conclusively. All right, power play. For the purposes of these projections, we've done them as if Dylan Larkin is a member of the Detroit Red Wings. I actually think like it's getting closer to 50-50 all the time that he just starts the season there. Like it seems pretty clear at this point. Like I don't think at this point in the offseason, Detroit's just going to all of a sudden cave and trade him for like a second round pick or anything crazy like that. And so at this point, yeah, it's getting closer to 50-50. I think Larkin might realize how bad this is going to be for him personally if he has to go back into that locker room. And he might cave in terms of the list of teams that he's willing to go to. So that might be interesting as a development. And obviously, we'll have to revisit projections if and when that happens. But as far as this power play goes, as far as our projections, we are basing them off the idea that Larkin will be there because what else can we base him off of at this moment? Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat, Sider, all locks on the top power play, but Patrick Kane leaving opens up a spot which I think Victor Arvidsson is a pretty obvious candidate to fill. Would you agree with that sentiment, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I've been talking about Victor Arvidsson for years. See you at the party, Victor. Right? I called him a good power play performer because he had one good year, and I stand by that. All right, that's fine analysis. But yeah, I think that that he landed, everything else in Detroit is burning down. And Victor Arvidsson's like, hey guys, what's going on? Can I go on the right side there and just bang away? Like, oh, sweet. This is awesome. So, yeah, I think he should be power play one with a bullet there. That makes a lot of sense, but he's such a different player than Patrick Kane, Arvidsson is the hammer, right? He's not really known for like shot assists, chance assists, anything like that. So he's going to be the guy at the end of passes. They're going to be wanting to get him the puck, right? And then whether you have Dylan Larkin or not in there, that's obviously going to, cause some problems. Lucas Raymond is an amazing power play performer and facilitator. So there's still a bit of juice there. Sider does well, and I think last year is the first year where I'm like, yeah, I like Sider on power play one. I think I'm convinced of that now. I don't feel like they're going to try and move him off there, but yeah, we just have to wait and see what happens with Larkin here. I think what you said is true. He's going to have to open his list up. That's the only way this happens. Otherwise, buddy, you're going back into, the Detroit arena there and having to play in front of these fans that you basically just tooted right in their face, So, and I got no problem with him wanting to leave. Like, that's fine. But yeah, that will be a gross situation. So I think the more they wait it out, the better chance Larkin opens up more teams that they can trade him to.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily at fault for wanting to leave an organization that has done terribly, like by anybody's standards, in the entire time he's been there.
Yep.
But to come out with a 3-team trade list is is something, in my
That's
opinion.
so
So
Dylan Larkin.
it's so Dylan Larkin. I will say if Larkin does leave, Andrew Kopp probably comes on this power play just because they would have to have somebody to take the face off. And he would probably be the next guy in line, I would imagine. I don't think it's going to be JT Compher or anybody like that, but,
Ew.
we've been surprised before. So either way, we're not going to love it if somebody else is on this power play, that's for sure. All right, top three lines and the projections of them. Dylan Larkin, 34 goal, 36 assists, 70 points with the round down from me. 35 goals, 36 assists, 71 points for you. Obviously, we see it pretty similarly here. I think there is potentially a slight pullback in this power play's efficiency with Kane leaving, but other than that, it would probably be business as usual in terms of a median projection at least. If he does come back and actually plays games, then it's also easy to see a scenario in which it's like a pretty tense marriage between
Yeah.
him and the rest of the team, and so it could you it wouldn't be the first player to have off ice stuff affect his on ice play. So I think that's at least a consideration as to where you'll be drafting him this year. What do you think about Larkin if he stays here, Blake?
Yeah. I mean, this is what I think of him if he stays here, basically. 71 points. Yeah, it's to me, Larkin is like a decent 1C. He's a great 2C. I mean, if Larkin was your 2C, he reminds me of like an elevated version of Vincent Trocheck. You know what I mean? Like he can bring that to the table, and he's got amazing speed, obviously. But yeah, this is so rough. It's so rough to try and project Dylan Larkin because even if he does come back, like with all the surrounding noise, like, yeah, that will affect the way he plays. And I'm wondering, like we saw this with Zach Werenski when a lot of those rumors were coming out with him and Columbus, and he just comes out and dealt with it directly. You know, I was like, nope, I want to stay here. Like Larkin could do that. If he does that, I think that noise would quiet down, right? And we have new management here. Like Yzerman's out of here. Maybe his problem was with Yzerman and not with the team itself, right? Maybe the new GM, whenever it gets hired, can kind of smooth that relationship over. But all that to say, yeah, this is he's a better than average player. It's just certainly this year I'm not into it, right? Because of all the variance that could potentially happen with him going to another team. Like if he goes to Minnesota, is he going to be that much better? Like I think in reality he will be better. But for fantasy, is he going to get more than 70 points in Minnesota? I don't think so. You know, and that's not going to happen. I don't think Minnesota has the horses to do that. But I'm not seeing a ceiling case for Larkin this season. I think 71 even feels potentially high, right? Because that includes 24 power play points on a really good Detroit power play, which, yeah, where does he go? Is that power play good? Is his role the same? Does he get the same minutes? All that. So, yeah, I'm rambling on about Dylan Larkin, but this is not a guy like I'm going to be drafting. What's your comfort level with drafting Dylan Larkin? Are you looking to get him anywhere? Like, where does value start for Dylan Larkin?
Yeah, I haven't touched him in any of the drafts. He's going at 71, so that's what, the end of the sixth.
It's his number too.
And yeah, I think like in terms of the base projection, that's probably about right in terms of where he should go. But like I said, I just think that it's a little bit scary to draft a guy who you don't know what it's going to be like if he stays there. You don't know what it's going to be like if he goes somewhere else, to be frank, right? So
What's the ceiling, do you think, like with him?
yeah, I don't think this is a guy with point per game ceiling. So yeah, the ceiling case is still probably not that great, even if he's put in an ideal situation, which you could argue that Detroit has been close to an ideal situation for him. Yeah, you'd love to have a guy other than Emmett Finney be his winger on the other side, but Lucas Raymond is a perfect fit for him in terms of one of his line mates. So yeah, I don't see it getting much better for Larkin versus this projection wherever he ends up. All right, let's talk about Finney. Most common line mate for Raymond and Larkin last year: 14 goal, 20 assists, 34 point projection for me. 14 goal, 20 assists, 34 point projection for you. Look at that. Yeah, I think Finney is a fine player. I think he's a limited player. He's not a big time shot producer. He will hit people, so that part is nice for your bangers cats leagues. But I don't think there's upside here. I don't think there's top power play upside here. I think this is a guy who caps out at half a point per game.
Yep, not too much to add. Definitely good banger. Really nice story for Detroit as well. Like this guy came out of nowhere to make the squad and really contributed. Like played all
Yep.
82, 30 games. Love that. Yeah, I think I mean, there's potential in the power play. This guy had 8 power play points last year. I think, I didn't project him that way. Oh, I got him 9.5. Dear God. That'll play. I think this is a guy you can definitely stream in. But yeah, like you said, there's no ceiling here. He's like that kind of net front board battle guy without any of the other parts. Like he can't really morph into another style of player. That's really just his style of play. And that'll play definitely in bangers leagues.
For sure. Next up, Lucas Raymond, I have for 29 goals, 52 assists, 81 points. You have him for 25 goals, 52 assists, 77 points. I think I like Raymond just fine for this year. I think that he's probably their best player in terms of even. I mean, you can argue Alex DeBrincat for sure. So I'm not gonna get too many people mad at me. But Lucas Raymond is a perfectly cromulent first line winger in the NHL. And I think that he elevates Larkin more than Larkin elevates him. And so I don't think that Larkin leaving would be the doom of Lucas Raymond. I do think that would be a problem because obviously they don't really have anybody who could step up in that role. And so it would reflect a little bit poorly on Raymond's numbers, but I think this is a guy who can score 70 plus with just about anybody as his line mates. So all said, I think Raymond is fine. If he starts to fall, like if Larkin is traded and Raymond starts to fall as a result, I might actually get interested in Raymond at that point, and that's something I will be keeping an eye on.
Yep. I will say it for you, Nate. I'm not going to stay on the fence. All right. Give me Raymond over DeBrincat this year. Nice. I still like Raymond. I think he's a better player with a better ceiling. And I think, I'm looking forward to talking about DeBrincat in a second here, but obviously losing Larkin will be a little bit of a blow for Raymond here, but I do think that he's the play driver on the line. There's no question there. He's the best power play player that they have, in my opinion, as well. So the floor is reasonable there. I think it's kind of a 70-point floor with Lucas Raymond. Even with Larkin out, I think someone has to score those points, and I think Raymond is the guy to do that, right? But his role could change on the team. So yeah, again, where are we drafting? Like, I don't know. I think they're right around where Raymond's being drafted. There are better to me, there are better ceiling options, and there are honestly better floor options too. So I think I'm probably going to be out on Raymond this year just because of what's going on there in Detroit. That said, it's still like we're only in August. So if they make some moves, they trade Raymond, they get a piece back that fits well with Raymond. Like obviously we're going to, rejig our projections here and we'll see what comes out. I really like Raymond as a facilitator, as a play driver. And I think he does have some runway for his career. He's only 24, but yeah, this is going to be a hit this year, I think.
Porter Martone goes one pick later in APL mocks. Who would you rather have?
Raymond. I'm not on the part of Porter Martone. I love Porter Martone. I don't want. That's where I'll be like, no, I don't want people mad at me. Don't be mad at me, folks. But Porter Martone's getting drafted in the 6th. No, my God, what? How? I can't wait to talk about the Flyers. Like, this is great, but buddy, no. Okay, I'm not here for that. Anyways, carry on.
All right, Andrew Kopp, 13 goal, 29 assist, 42-point projection for me. 11 goal, 32 assist, 43-point projection for you. I think it's safe to say that neither of us are super interested in Andrew Kopp. If he goes on the top power play as a result of Larkin leaving, maybe we revisit that. He did find good chemistry with DeBrincat and Kane on that second line towards the back half of last year. Now Kane is gone, so I don't know if he sticks with DeBrincat and they try to find a way to make Victor Arvidsson do his best Patrick Kane impression. I don't think that would go particularly well, but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, but either way, I don't think I'm super into Kopp.
No, I don't have too much to add, except for the fact that he really did fit in well with Patrick Kane and DeBrincat. He, and like his microstat, his underlying microstat profile changed drastically. Like this is a guy that was used kind of in that middle 6, like defensive role. Now all of a sudden he's like popping off in his high danger passes, chance assists, like passes from the center lane, like really offensively dangerous stuff. Andrew Kopp was doing that last year. And he had a great year, 43 points in 79 games. That's pretty nice. But yeah, what are we doing? Like the thing with Kopp too, the reason I feel like we still have like a reasonable projection is like someone has to play, right? Yeah. Like, if Larkin goes, like Is he the 1C? I mean, damn, like someone has to play out there. So I feel like he'll probably walk into those kind of points. Now knowing that he does have kind of this good, this pretty good facilitation in the bag as well.
Yeah, if Larkin leaves, this is probably a bottom 5 forward unit in the entire league. So,
Ew.
yeah, not ideal. Alex DeBrincat, though, pretty ideal season last year. I have him for 38 goals, 42 assists, 80 points. This year, you have him for 36 goals, 36 assists, 72 points this year. 8.4 points difference on our projections here. This is the biggest that we have. I assume most of this is you seeing a big pullback due to Kane leaving.
Don't assume anything, Nathan. All right. This is a mystery wrapped in a riddle up here. Okay. It's no one knows what's going on in this head. That's sorry about that. Yeah, that's a lot of it. I'm sorry, Nathan. You are right. Yeah, to me, I really feel like, yeah, DeBrincat had a great year. There's no question. But I don't believe that DeBrincat is really the one that is kind of that play driver. You know what I mean? Yeah, he does that fairly well, but Kane was the one, I think, and their synergy together. Like they just play really well together. Kane was unbelievable in high danger passes last year, and a lot of them were straight to DeBrincat's stick, and he was able to put the biscuit in the basket at a really high level, right? On the power play as well. So it was just a really underrated, great season that Alex DeBrincat had. But yeah, I just look at this upcoming year. I've got him with Victor Arvidsson and Andrew Kopp. Like DeBrincat and Arvidsson are similar players. They're both shooters, individual shooters and chance generators. Who's making the passes? Who's facilitating, right? Is Andrew Kopp our facilitator now? Like, I don't know about that, right? Like DeBrincat, he was 10th, in shots off of high danger passes per 60. DeBrincat was, and Kane was really up there as well. Andrew Kopp was good at that as well. So I just think I need to see what's going on with this center. We need to see, again, what's going on with Larkin. But I have baked in a little bit of regression for DeBrincat here. Last season was his career high, right? 85 points in 82 games. He's never done that before, folks. And now, there's his whole world is turned upside down. He might be the last man standing there in Detroit.
Yep, I think that's possible. We've also seen, I think the minutes grow even more as they need his offense. I think there's scenarios in which, like we said, McClellan gets fired and they turn the season into a fun season and they let guys rack up some points. That kind of happened to William Nylander last year with the Leafs at the end of last year, where he just played a ton of time and Roope was like, I can't talk to this guy anymore, so go do whatever you're gonna do. So I think there are versions of that where it still works out for DeBrincat. I think I give him a little bit more credence in terms of the play driving on his own right. And I think I just like Victor Arvidsson way more than you. I think we know
Not
this.
possible, sir.
Yeah, I think that Arvidsson is a fine option. I do think that there was special connection with Kane there for sure, but I do think Arvidsson can approximate, a decent level of that production, that even strength production that DeBrincat brought to the table last year. So this is probably on the higher side of the projection for me. Like, I don't think he's going to exceed this by a lot, even in a best case scenario. And yeah, I could definitely see him scoring 72 next year. That wouldn't be a shock to anyone, I don't think. Even lower if Larkin leaves and the season goes south in a bad way. But yeah, overall, I might look at this one again just to bring it down a tad because it does feel high. But I also trust my numbers because they've been pretty good in the past. So
They have been good. And, shout out to DeBrincat, man. What a
yeah,
season. What a freaking season. Like, if he's that player now, just like he's leveled up a little bit, like, I don't think I don't see it as too high. Like 80.4, like, no, I think that's reasonable as well. Just to put your mind at ease, Nate. I mean, he'll be closer to my number, but good effort.
All right. Let's talk about Victor Arvidsson. 25 goal, 33 assist, 58-point projection for me. 27 goal, 31 assist, 58-point projection for you. So we get to the same place in the end there. That's with only 16 and a half power play points for me. 245 shots. I think if he and DeBrincat are on the same line, they're going to shoot a ton. I should have said one other thing that did cross my mind with DeBrincat is if they actually load up a top line, especially if Larkin does leave, where DeBrincat is now playing with Raymond, and you actually, that could be better than Patrick Kane at this stage in Kane's career. So yeah.
You just figured that out on the fly, didn't you?
Yeah, totally. I never thought of that before. All right, Victor Arvidsson. What do you say, Blake? I actually think there's something here. Like, this is a guy who we saw get hot with a couple of nobodies in Boston last year and had a great run to end the season. And who's to say he couldn't do the same with Andrew Kopp this year?
Andrew Kopp is the comp. Okay.
For
Yeah.
Casey Middlestat, I think it's a fair comp.
You know what? I might take Kopp there. All right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. One pull up. How dare you? You're a professional athlete. All right. It's embarrassment. Beautiful head of hair, though. We know that. Yeah. I think this is a great situation for Arvidsson. I mean, you got a new face in a new place, so that kind of stinks a little bit, right? And obviously, we just keep saying it, but all the changes there in Detroit. But one of the things that's so neat about Arvidsson, he was amazing at 5-on-5 last year. This guy had a 65% goals for percentage. 65%. My God, that's elite. And we, when we talked about Boston, we talked about them being over their skis a little bit, but he still went out and did that, right? This line, the second line in Boston last year with Arvidsson on it, went out and did that. Detroit as a team, they were 26th in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. So they could use, I think that's why they targeted Victor Arvidsson. Like, oh, look at this guy. He's great at 5-on-5 and we were freaking hot garbage. Let's get this guy out here. That 1 + 1 = 2, right? But yeah, I don't know. All that to say, I do think that DeBrincat, if he does play with DeBrincat and Kopp, DeBrincat will have to change his play style a little bit. We'll have to see more facilitation because I think Arvidsson doesn't really have that, whereas DeBrincat does. DeBrincat can do that. So I think it's a great situation for him to land in. I don't feel comfortable with, the crazy year that he had last year. It's a 64-point pace. I don't think that's sustainable. Obviously, we just talked about the efficiencies there, but I think his floor is raised by going here to Detroit. I think he's going to get a little bit more ice time, and he's going to get that power play one role that he's always deserved. Okay. This guy got 25 power play points in 2022-23, folks. All right. With the 44% power play share. You do that, just map that out in terms of efficiency. And we're looking at, like an all-timer here, right?
Amazing.
Literally never had double digits in power play points ever again. Okay. But this is the year, folks. How many power play points did you get RV for?
16.5.
Oh, you beaut. I got him for 19.8. How dare you sell this man?
All right. I did do a JT Comfer projection because apparently I hate myself. 12 goals, 18 assists, rounding up to 31 points there. Do not draft JT Comfer anywhere in any type of league. Marco Kasper, the last member of this forward group, I have for 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points. You have him for 16 goals, 18 assists, rounding up to 35 points there. I think there's still a bull case scenario here for Casper. We saw him, not this past year, but the year before, have a nice little run, as Emmett Finney did this year on that top line with Larkin and Raymond. I think there's a bull case where he's at least relevant, especially because he does shoot a fair bit. He does hit a lot. The blocks are not bad. So, I think there's this a scenario anyway where he gets hot for a while. He's playing on one of the top lines. Maybe he's playing opposite Raymond somewhere, and he at least gets hot for a couple of weeks and he's fantasy relevant, but definitely not a guy I'm going to be drafting.
No, definitely a guy that I think we should watch, though, especially if Larkin does leave, because he's a center, right? I mean, this is a guy they're into. Like they put some years in here. They're invested in Marco Kasper. They obviously want to get him, kind of over the hump offensively. It was last year was a down year. His ice time was down. His points were way down. Like he had 37 points in 77 games in 2024-25, only 19 points last year in 81 games in a very reduced role. So I think that they want him to be a bigger part of this team, and that could happen just based on the subtraction of, one of their best players. So all that to say, the type of player Kasper is, like, he's a grinder. He's a individual shot and chance generator on his own, big hits. And he's a good forechecker. So that's sort of what he's bringing to the table. What has he done this offseason? That's what's really going to be interesting. Like, how does he come into camp? How does he show up? I think, it would not shock me if Larkin's out of here and they aren't able to get a center back in the return. Like, I could see Kasper up on that top line for stretches of the year while they try it out, and maybe he's able to handle that. But that could be a pipe dream. Like, this guy, he averaged under 14 minutes last year, so we'll see. Obviously not a McClellan favorite, but they might not have a choice.
Defense, Simon Edvinsson, I have for 9 goals, 20 assists, rounding up to 30 points. You have him for 7 goals, 21 assists, 28 points. Decent bangers. I have him for 101 hits and 164 blocks, so he does a little bit of that for you. But yeah, basically like a Cats League streamer at best, and probably a deep league at that. Rich Sider, I have for 10 goals, 43 assists, 53 points. You have him for 9 goals, 46 assists, 55 points. So yeah, I think Sider, I'm pretty comfortable with him in this range. Obviously brings a lot to the table. 178 shots, 140 hits, 182 blocks is what I've got him for. Lots of peripherals on the table with Moritz Seider. I don't think he's touching last year's point totals. Again, that's probably the high watermark for his career, honestly, for Moritz Seider, just given how good that power play was. But I do think that he's likely to hang on to power play one all year this year. Didn't seem like Axel Sandin-Pellikka was a McClellan favorite either, and really he's the only guy I could see ever possibly taking over this power play from Sider. And so I think he marks as a relatively safe guy. Got Norris conversation last year, is really kind of getting his just desserts as one of the best defensemen in the league at this point. And I feel relatively confident with him here. I just don't feel like there's a ton of upside.
Yep. That all plays for me. We're talking about fantasy, right? I mean, Seider is one of the best defensemen in the league. I love to see it. It's great stuff. This guy plays some of the hardest minutes out there, and he was able to put up a 60-point season. That's unbelievable. And his performance on the power play was really elite as well. 28 power play points, and like you said, he went off too. Like in the back half of the season there, especially the last 19 games, 19 points the last 19 games with 9 of those on the power play. Yes, please, but. Yeah, I think Larkin leaves, that power play is going to take a hit. I've got him projected for 24. I can see that dropping down to 20, right? Like he's not the driver on the power play. But yeah, one of the things I did want to mention is, again, the pairing of defense and how that affects sort of their fantasy production. And last season, Mo Seider played mostly with Ben the Shark Sherratt, right? Which was a fine pairing. Like they were great, but that was his most common line mate. And Seider had 46 points in 82 games. This season, he plays most of the season with Edmondson. Edmondson, who's one of these guys who's really good at rushed exits. He's one of these guys who is collecting the puck in the D zone and connecting plays, and he's good defensively. And I think that opened up a little bit of space for Seider to expand offensively. And you saw that expansion, right? 60 points in 82 games. So I really like that pairing. I think as long as that holds too, I think we're seeing a slightly leveled up version of Seider offensively. Even if Larkin's not here, I think playing with Edmondson makes him a better offensive defenseman, which is great for fantasy. His per riffs took a big hit. Oh my God. Like went from 212 hits last year to just 128. And that's still monster numbers, but you know, one of the reasons Seider gets drafted so high in a lot of spots, especially Bangers Cats leagues, are those hits and blocks combo, right? And the good shots too. And there was a little bit of a change there. What do you make of that? What do you make of players that really have a regression in hits like that? We saw offense go up, shots go up, hits go down. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you can speculate a little bit unless you find some coach comment. It's hard to really know for certain. We've seen a similar trajectory for a guy like Rasmus Dahlin, who had a lot more banger stuff early in his career, and it's trended down over the last number of years. So it could be the start of a larger trend, and that'll be something to monitor for sure. It could also just be how the season went, and he just decided he didn't need to be putting his body on the line quite so much by the end of the year, which would be totally fair in this case. So until I see like a multi-year trend, I'm not going to bake too much into it, but it is something I'm aware of for sure. Justin Falk next up, I have for 9 goals, 23 assists, 32 points. You have him for 6 goals, 27 assists, rounding down to 32 points there. I am not super interested in Justin Falk in this spot. I don't think he's even the next guy up for power play one in most scenarios. And so this is probably actually close to the ceiling for him, which is a tough look.
It's a head scratcher, right? The whole trade was a head scratcher. I like the idea that they're trying to make the team better and push for the playoffs, but Falk, I don't know. He's a 34-year-old guy, initially had some good shot and chance numbers, right? But that's really not his game anymore. The foot speed's down. I'm just not seeing it. Like you said, he doesn't even have a beeline to power play, right? We got ASP out here, who's probably power play 2. And if, Seider goes down for whatever reason, ASP is going to go up to power play 1, in my opinion. So, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think you can stream this guy in. There's some slightly above average hits and block numbers, but yeah, I don't get it, and I don't think I'll be having Falk on my team at any point here.
Aleksander Pellikka, last member of the team to talk about here. I have him for 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. You have him for 8 goals, 22 assists, 30 points. Was not a Todd McClellan favorite. I think we can say that probably conclusively at this point. I think the real path to potential fantasy relevance for ASP this year is McClellan gets fired by December, as we've talked about, and a new coach comes in, and they're kind of just throwing in the towel on the season, and they say, okay, ASP, go take power play 1, and let's let Seider have a bit of a rest. And that's not a great path to fantasy success for me.
Isn't that funny? We're baking that into our progression or projections. Is like, yeah, okay, so I'm projecting the coach is going to get fired, and then what'll happen here? But yeah, this is your classic third pairing, offensive defenseman, sheltered minutes. And one of the things that he's really going to have to improve out there is his ability to turn like defensive zone, exits into offensive zone entries, right? I think Detroit as a team, they were pretty rough there, right? They just weren't able to get up and down the ice in the way that they should, especially at 5-on-5. So he's got his work cut out for him, but this is a uber talented player, really good facilitator, very shifty out there. The other thing with Aleksander Pellikka is he's waiver exempt, and Detroit has a lot of D-men. So I don't know that he's a draftable guy to me. I think he's a player that I want to watch. Obviously, I think he needs to make camp or make the team out of camp, like with a bullet, like he's good to go. We love ASP the way he showed up here. And then I'll feel good about that. But I could see him spending some time or getting sent down a little bit and getting called back up. And that's risky bisky for fantasy.
All right, top 3 targets, Blake, give it to me.
Give it to me, Neil. Oh, God, Neil. Right. Victor Arvidsson. See you at the party, Victor. See you on my fantasy squad. I'm riding with Victor. Love the of all these players that we're talking about are gonna have down seasons. I don't think Victor Arvidsson's one of them. I think he's one of the guys that actually benefits from the situation. I'm happy to have him. Moritz Seider, I've got as my number 2 for the reasons we mentioned. I think obviously the peripheral floor is great. Hopefully those hits do come back, because that's just more loving for Seider, right? You go to the old mill and you get some Seider. Okay. And, I do think his role in the power play is really secure. Then Lucas Raymond as our number 3. Obviously, I want some value there with Raymond. I want him dropping a little bit more than where he's going in APL drafts.
And I've got the exact same top 3. Victor Arvidsson, number 1. I do agree. This is probably the one guy who this situation is best for in terms of his potential for fantasy. Moritz Seider, like I said, I think he's safe. I'm not excited about it necessarily, because I don't think there's a ton of upside. I think we've already seen the best case scenario, and it's unlikely for him to hit that again next year, especially with Kane gone and potentially Larkin now. Lucas Raymond, I think, will probably potentially even fall in drafts even further than where he's going back of the 6th. So if he's starting to get into the 7th round, like I said, a guy I think has his own gravity, can score 70 points no matter who he's playing with, and best case could still get close to point per game. All right. We've reached the halfway point. That means we're going to talk about the Apples and Ginos Patron League, the APL. You should head over to applesandginos.com/APL right now. There you're going to find all the steps you need to check off to become a member of the APL. We're over 100 managers already joined in. Last year, we got just over 200 managers in this league, and we're looking to hit at least that again. So now's a great time to get yourself in there. We will be starting drafts in early September. The season starts earlier this year. The season actually starts in September, so we got to get these drafts in lots of time. We're going to be doing slow drafts over on Fantrax, so get yourself in during the month of August. That's a good time, especially if you're someone who was in the APL last year. You got yourself a promotion, maybe you're going up a tier. You got to get yourself signed up for the APL in the month of August here, and we'll get you assigned to your correct spot and make sure that you're getting full marks for all of your wonderful work you did last year. applesandginos.com/APL for more. Ready for Edmonton?
I can't wait, buddy. We get to talk about the coach. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Going to be so much fun, but first we got to talk about the departure of Darnell Nurse, Jack Roslovic, Andrew Mangiapane. Might honestly be a little bit of addition by subtraction in those cases. Key arrivals, Frederick Anderson, Ryan Shea. I'm going to throw Isaac Howard in here because I do think he becomes a regular with the squad this year after spending most of last year in the AHL. Shakir McCamadoulan comes over in the Nurse trade. They also picked up, Jason Dickinson, Connor Murphy at the trade deadline last year, and those guys re-signed, so they'll be back. Devin Levi, interesting pickup from Buffalo Sabres, who just kind of have ended up with too many goalies to feel comfortable rostering. So nice little bit of business there. I think the most interesting part of these arrivals, for me at least, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but Frederick Anderson, Devin Levi, obviously just adding some goaltenders who they're hoping one of these guys just becomes the guy to step up for this season.
It's so interesting. Like, Edmonton never does what you want them to do in terms of the goaltending position. Like, they get these guys where you have to convince yourself that it's a good idea. Tristan Jarry, what was that about? Like, you traded Skinner for Jarry. Like, you traded the better goalie. What are you doing? That made no sense. But yeah, Freddie Anderson just won the cup and played really, really well. And now they have kind of a three-headed goalie monster here in Edmonton, and that's fine. I think that'll suit Freddie Anderson really well. I like the swing there. It's a low-risk contract. So, and then Devin Levi, obviously, there's your upside swing. This guy still has, some juice, I think, and hopefully he gets an opportunity. Tristan Jarry, get the hell out of my sight. But yeah, can't they just go out and trade for Connor Hellebuck? Like, can't they just do that? So we can see McDavid win the cup. I don't like the Oilers, folks. I don't like them, but McDavid needs to win a cup. That doesn't make sense to me if he doesn't win a cup. So anyways, I like that a lot. And like you said, I think Darnell Nurse leaving, it was time. I'm not the biggest Nurse hater the way some people are, but I do think his time kind of ran out here. And I think he'll probably be in a better situation there in San Jose.
All right. Let's talk about the coach. There has been some talk about this coaching situation this offseason. Mike Babcock enters in the most pivotal season of the McDavid era to date. Apparently, he's the right guy to keep Connor McDavid in Edmonton long term. I guess Connor and company there thought they needed a more draconian hand at the wheel after Chris Knobloch there. Does he still have it? It's a pretty big question. 7 seasons Mike Babcock has not coached in the league. Tried to, but then did some apparently really dumb stuff behind the scenes, which apparently we didn't even hear the full story of, and got himself promptly escorted out of town. Yes, I forgot. Sorry. He said he quit on his own.
No, yeah, he just resigned. Yeah,
yes.
He resigned. No problem.
Yeah, definitely. That's how it went down. Yeah, if supercilious pomposity were coaching skill, I'd be more interested in Mike Babcock's ability to get something out of this team that Chris Knobloch was unable to. At the end of the day, all it really does for me is it increases the variability on these projections because we don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if Mike Babcock knows what he's going to do other than just be a hard ass. So talk to me about all this, Blake. I've rambled enough.
I'm going to need Google Translate. I don't know what the hell you just said. Super sisyphus.
That's it. You got it.
That's an onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia wouldn't want to be, right?
Nice.
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure what an onomatopoeia is, but that's my level, folks. I'm in my 40s. All right, I'll just say that, and I feel good about myself. Anyways, Mike Babcock, what the hell? What an absolute ding-dong. Freaking piece of stool. But he should be a good coach here. I mean, they want him. So fair play. This is what they asked for. I mean, but just remember, if you're not going to be all the way in with Mike Babcock, then Mike Babcock's going to have a problem, right? That's a quote. All right. Mike Babcock, he talks about himself in third person. He does that. Yeah. But all joking aside, yeah, very good coach. We have to give the man his flowers for that. This guy knows his X's and O's. The buttons he pushes, strange. I'm not really into that. But again, we just covered that with the team actually is in for it. Like they want that. So, okay. That's great. It's great that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman and Evan Bouchard want that. But what about the other young players that have careers that are promising, and they get this freaking dipstick in here. I don't know. That's another story we can talk about another time. But I do think, one of the things Mike Babcock said that he's going to do is cut some of the ice time for his top players to keep them fresher. I think that's a great idea. I'm absolutely here for that. I think one of the main things that's going to happen is he's going to take away shorthanded or penalty killing time for the big guys, right? So instead of 23 minutes a night, McDavid might play 21, right? But that's something, right? I think that will help Connor McDavid potentially with his efficiency, and then hopefully it boosts the bottom six a little bit. The Oilers really need to find some gems there in their bottom six. They need some players to come out of the woodwork and really provide some supplementary secondary scoring, right? But yeah, all that to say, it was such a weird signing. Again, I talked about them doing weird stuff with their goalies. This is even a weirder move to get Mike Babcock here with all the press that's surrounding the man. And I don't know, we're not in the situation. So I still, even though I've heard of all that stuff, I'll still go, okay, like I don't know the situation. So okay, right. That'll leave it at that, right? But I do. I want to see the Edmonton Oilers succeed for the ultimate prize. I want to see McDavid win a cup at some point, and this is something different. So that's the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So what they've done is gone out and done a 180, right? And we go from like a player development, player empowerment coach in Chris Knobloch to this absolute hard ass who's, has all these rules and boundaries and intimidation tactics, and we'll see what it does. I don't know. Well, what do you think? Like, what do you think? I've rambled on here.
Honestly, I don't even know if he's still a good coach. Like, what data do we have to suggest that he's still a good coach? Like, ostensibly he's been watching the league, but the league has changed tremendously in 7 seasons. And if he's not up on it, and if he's not ready to go, like even when he was there with the Leafs at the end, I don't think he was out coaching people as the coach of the Leafs. I think he had a good young team that was starting to do some things. So yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm open to being proven wrong that he's a great coach at this point, but I don't think you can just say that Mike Babcock is a great coach in the NHL in the year of our Lord 2026 as a definitive statement. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. Like I said, I do think it increases the variability on some of these projections that normally would have been pretty locked in. Let's talk about the power play. McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard, Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins is about as locked in as a power play gets. It's been that way for the last half a decade, feels like at this point. Anyway, curious who you think might be the next guy up in case of an injury. I think Isaac Howard or Matt Savoie could be the next man up, but honestly, even if they do get up there at some point, the other 4 players on the power play will probably just ignore them anyway and operate as if they don't exist. So maybe it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Something again with Mike Babcock here, talking about cutting time on ice for his top players. Like, does that include the power play? Like, that would be a pretty dumb move, but some analysts have sort of postulated that might be something that happens, right? Maybe he mixes things up, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if anybody can, I could see old Mikey doing it. But yeah, this power play is good to go. Obviously, probably the best unit in the league. Just they're so fluid. They're like the weapon they have with Draisaitl down at the goal line, him being able to score those tight one-timers there, like that's unreal. Just and like Nuge as well, like very underrated member of this power play. You got Zach Hyman out here, who I think is going to have a nice bounce back under Mike Babcock because he's got some history with the guy, and he actually liked being coached with him, and he was prioritized as a rookie under Mike Babcock in Toronto. So I think, yeah, the power play is going to be good to go. I think if someone is off there, for me, it's Matt Savoie that's going to get bumped up. I'm low key into Matt Savoie this year as a player of interest. I know we got Isaac Howard out here as well. That was a guy I was into last year, but I think Mike Babcock prefers players that play well on the defensive side of the puck, and they're going to get prioritized. And Matt Savoie is the more defensive player of those 2 guys. So that's kind of where I'm leaning there.
Right, projections. Let's dig in. Connor McDavid, I have for 43 goals, 88 assists. That's 131 points. You have him for 45 goals, 91 assists, and 136 points. So you actually have him doing some extra stuff under Mike Babcock. Clearly, you're a big fan of the man. I don't know what to say about McDavid. We talked about him versus McKinnon at first overall. I think that's really the only conversation that's worth having about McDavid. You're just going to take him.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have too much to say. This guy's ready to go. And one of the things about McDavid is the clock's ticking, right? Like, and the thing is too, it has been for a while, so it's not new for McDavid, this pressure, right? I think bringing the new coach in here could be a potential benefit for McDavid, that now his game isn't under the microscope, right? And what he's doing now, it's, Babcock is the story at the end of every night. I think like that's the more salacious story that I think a lot of media will probably run with, if Babcock does what he's done historically, right? Maybe he just goes real quiet and we just see a real quiet season. That would be interesting as well. But all that to say, I think we're going to see a little bit more efficiency from Connor McDavid with less minutes out there. Maybe he's a little bit fresher, and I'm also projecting a good bounce back for Zach Hyman as well, and he's playing on a line with McDavid. So.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins next up, 21 goals, 44 assists, 65 points for me. 21 goals, 42 assists, 63 points for you. Feels pretty locked in this range. Not exciting, not a big time, not a big time shooter, not a big time guy to bank on hits or blocks or any of that. But probably around 30 power play points, probably going to be in the mid 60s in points scored. So definitely a guy you have to be aware of come draft day.
Yep, not too much to add. I definitely like his role on the power play there. And again, he's a very good defensive player. And I think players that show that are going to get prioritized a little bit more under the new coach.
Zach Hyman, 37 goals, 31 assists, 68 points for me. 41 goals, 30 assists, 71 points for you, Blake. Big projection here on Zach Hyman. For myself, I like Hyman. I think it'll be a nice little bounce back season for him. I don't think he has a ton of ceiling beyond this. I think those days are probably behind him at this point. So this is probably closer to the best case scenario than the worst case scenario for him, in my opinion. So yeah, I think like this puts him in a good range, but I think he's been going higher than I'm willing to take him. If I just, again, using my raw fantasy points per game rank, he comes out to 81st in APL scoring based on this, which is, in the 7th round, but it's amongst a bunch of other names that I think are potentially a little bit more exciting and guys that I might be willing to take a stab on who might have upside beyond this. So, I'm kind of left a little in, a little out on Zach Hyman, kind of currently where he's going.
Yep, that all makes sense. It's a little bit of a risky pick, maybe more of a ceiling here, but I don't give a damn. All right, I like Zach Hyman a lot. Obviously, you're playing with the best player in the world. Another thing, when I was digging in on Babcock, is something that he does differently than Knobloch is he keeps pairs together. He wants to have set lines, and that's what he's done historically. Like, to your point, he hasn't coached in a long time, but when he did coach, he liked to have set lines. So we're looking at Zach Hyman with McDavid all year, right? Potentially, right? And it's not that different than what we've seen, but even more. I think it's a little bit of a boost. I also think that Hyman has a lot to prove coming off injury there. He understands the assignment as well, and he's familiar with the coach, who I think it's going to be a benefit for Hyman because of his history with Babcock and what he's been able to do previously. He's been prioritized by Babcock for his play style. So that's kind of where I'm getting there. I mean, we're kind of in the same range points wise, but I'm seeing a bit more efficiency there on the power play for Zach Hyman. And I even reduced his shooting percentage at even strength a little bit than what it was last year. He had a great year last year, just injured. Like he paced for 74 last year, 31 goals in 58 games. And that's with a 19.5 shooting percentage. So I regressed all that and I still came to 40 goals, right? And this is based on an 84 game season as well. So I think that's how I'm getting there. But I'm with you in terms of the value with Hyman. I need to see where he's at, but I've seen him dropping to a level where I do feel comfortable getting a guy that could potentially get 40 goals.
Yeah, I think those are fair points. I mean, last year, even strength, he plays 770 minutes with Connor McDavid and only 176 away from him. So definitely the vast majority of his time has already come with Connor McDavid on his line. And I will say, like, going back to the Babcock time, yeah, he was playing with Matthews a fair bit, Matthews and Marner, but like it was really only after he got to Edmonton that he really had a glow up for fantasy purposes. His
Mhm.
career high with Toronto was 41 points. And yeah, it was trending a little bit better, but really it was McDavid that made Hyman rather than, Babcock really finding something there, in my opinion. So, uh, yeah, that's just why I'm not like kind of giving him that extra little bit of a boost. We're not that far off in terms of our projections, really, but an interesting player, no doubt. Leon Draisaitl next up, 43 goals, 73 assists, 116 points for me. 49 goals, 67 assists, 117 points with the round up there for you. One of the most bankable guys that you can possibly have on your fantasy squad. I think he's in the Celebrini tier for me after the big three, McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov. Then it's Draisaitl and Celebrini that I'm really considering at the next spot. And I've waffled a bit on this. I was taking Draisaitl there in these mocks pretty consistently. And then I did all of my projections and did the math. And Celebrini, just as a base projection for me, comes out like enough ahead of Draisaitl that I might have to flip that and put Celebrini at the 4 spot. Where are you landing at this point, Blake?
Well, first off, the Celebrini tier. Put some respect on Uncle Leon's name. This man's been doing it for years. All right. Celebrini just pops off for 115 points. He's the next coming. Shame on you. Okay. I love Celebrini,
I
by the
mean,
way.
he is.
Yeah, he's great. I can't wait to watch him this year. It's going to be amazing. But yeah, Dry, super bankable, one of the most efficient players in the league. I love watching him. And yeah, I am buying into the narrative that a little bit less time on ice is actually going to be a benefit to guys like McDavid and Draisaitl. I think that, yeah, they'll be a little bit fresher. I think Draisaitl has a bit more juice on the power play as well. He had 42 power play points. Imagine being so good on the power play where you're like 42 power play points, like, yeah, there's still room, right? He can do more. I've got him for 47
Me
for
too.
reference. So yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about. This is such an amazing player. And I feel like Edmonton is going to do something in this situation. They got the goaltending short up to some degree. If Babcock comes in with a level of coaching the way he has in the past, right? Not the mental stuff, but just the X's and O's, I do think he's a good coach. And, maybe he will be able to find what has been missing from the Edmonton Oilers roster. But Draisaitl is great. And yeah, I don't know. The Celebrini tier. I feel like it's not that risky. No, it's getting Celebrini is not risky at all. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say that, but I still feel like Dry is a bit safer. If 10 drafts, I'm probably taking Draisaitl 6 times over Celebrini, and yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All right. Next up, Vasily Podkolzin, 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points for me. 17 goals, 23 assists, 40 points for you. One was actually Leon Draisaitl's most common line mate at even strength last year. I think that's a trend that will likely continue once again this season. I don't see a better fit for him there on the left wing. So yeah, I think there'll be some streamer opportunities for Podkolzin throughout the year. This is a guy who does throw the body. 235 hits is what I've got him for. 54 blocks, so that'll play, especially as a streamer when Edmonton's got a good schedule.
Yep. Not too much to add. I think he will get a slight boost. Obviously, we're projecting that. Like, I've got him for 40. He had 37 last year. It's just a player we need to watch, right? It's hard in Edmonton because we know who the studs are. It's like, who are these other guys? Who are we targeting? I think Pods has to be in the mix there. He's really kind of found a spot playing with elite players. That's not an easy thing to do, right? To play alongside a guy like Leon Draisaitl and to fit in, right? And to do all those things that allows Leon to do what he does, but also, to contribute in your own way. And some of the neat things about Pod Colson, like, yeah, he's really good at his own shots and chances, but decent facilitator as well. Shot assists, chance assists. He's doing that. I'm a big fan. I think that I'll definitely be streaming him in at some point. I love those hits too. My God, I got him for 244.
All right, Matt Savoie next up. I think this could be a guy who spends a fair bit of time on the right wing of Leon Draisaitl throughout the season this year. I have him for 16 goals, 21 assists, 37 points. You have him for 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points. And that is the biggest difference on any one player in our projections for Edmonton. 5.2 points higher for you, Blake. So give me the bull case for Savoie here.
I look back to last season, and yeah, he finished the season with McDavid and Hyman. Right, they played the final 24 games together, and it went pretty damn well. Like Matt Savoie, what did he get? Yeah, 12 points in 19 games, the last 19 games of the year. But increase in ice time, he was playing over 17 minutes, was getting just under 2 minutes power play time. Like this is a guy they took a look at. And again, like I talked about with Savoie, I think that there's some defensive skills there as well, where I think his main competition, Isaac Howard, I think doesn't have that. He's more of an offensive player. And does, the top six need more offense? Not exactly. They need a guy that can pick up the slack defensively, but also get in where he fits in. And Savoie has some offensive play there as well. So I really think that's it. Like I probably would have had Howard kind of up around this number if I thought that he was going to get the top six the way that I think Savoie will. But I could see Savoie going up to the top line, playing there instead of Nuge. I could see that happening, and maybe they drop Nuge down to make that third line something. But like I said about Babcock, I really think they're going to try and dial in the lines and kind of give them a bunch of games to kind of build chemistry. And so all that to say, I think Savoie's in the top six, and that's kind of how I'm getting there.
All right, Jason Dickinson, I did not project, but you did, Blake. 7 goals, 17 assists, 24 points with the round down there. You got anything you want to talk about with Jason Dickinson?
He's a great penalty killer, right? With Chicago.
It's great for fantasy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's great for this team because that's, again, why they targeted him. I mean, Edmonton's, they were 22nd overall in goals against per 60 on the penalty kill. That show ain't no good, guys. So, yeah, Jason Dickinson's going to be out there quite a bit, and that's why they'll be able to, take McDavid and Draisaitl off the penalty kill.
Isaac Howard, player of interest down here. 18 goals, 14 assists, 32 points for me. 12 goals, 18 assists, rounding up to 31 points for you there. For myself, I think Isaac Howard is of interest, was one of the most effective per game players in the AHL last year. Had an early stint with the Oilers and wasn't really able to cut it at that point. So goes down, and his rookie season in the AHL really couldn't have gone much better. So I do think that this is probably the season. Is Babcock the kind of guy to let a player like this have a good season? He's 5'10", 180 for reference. But again, like, they've been searching for a guy to like have this kind of impact, to be like a middle six guy, or maybe fill in on the top line somewhere if somebody gets injured. Like, they're just paths that if a player can break out, like, why can't it be a guy who scores over a point per game in the AHL last year and turns around and actually has a pretty decent season this year? I'm choosing to believe that that's possible for Isaac Howard. I'm not drafting him, but it is a player that I'll be watching for.
I love the idea of it. This is, like you said, it couldn't have went better when he got sent down. This guy was electric out there. He's great. But that says to me too, like, this is a player that needs to be one of the guys, one of the big parts of an offense on a team. And even if he's in the top six, like it's not his show, clearly, right? It's like you have to find a way to supplement two of the best players in the entire league. So yeah, that's really my sticking point with Howard and not projecting him for more. I feel like he's on the wrong team to really kind of get the biz, So I'm hoping for the best. This is an elite offensive player that needs an opportunity to do so. But like, what did you project him for ice time?
For ice time, I had Howard for 12 and a half minutes.
God, me too. That's not good enough, right? This is an offensive player, 12 and a half minutes, 31 points. Like, give him another 5. Now we're looking at, 55 maybe. Like, it's just, it's not the right team for him. I hope it happens though. Like, but it's just not something I'm comfortable projecting.
All right, moving over to defense. Matthias Ekholm, I have for 7 goals, 33 assists, 40 points. You have him for 7 goals, 32 assists, 39 points. So a huge difference between us there. I think Ekholm's still going to be a guy who they lean on a fair bit at even strength. And so I do think he probably approaches the 40-point mark this year, but it does feel like that's closer to the high end of potential outcomes than the lower end. I am not going to be drafting Matthias Ekholm most likely. I just think in drafts, I might end up with Matthias Ekholm as my fourth D at some point throughout the season, but it's not a guy that I'm going to go out and draft. I'm going to be taking my shots on the Cole Hudsons of the world in the double-digit rounds more often than not. And then if I have to, then if that doesn't work out, then I might get to Ekholm later on.
Oh, yeah, but high praise for Matthias Ekholm. Again, just catching strays here on the Apples of Ginos Fantasy Hockey podcast. Unbelievable. This first, the Draisaitl thing, now this. But yeah, this guy's an absolute horse out there. I think he's locked in with Evan Bouchard, so that means big minutes with the best players in the entire world. Sure, I'll speculate like my 38.8 is probably like the high end or closer to the high end of what he's going to get. But I just think that the environment that he's in is insane. I think that this is another guy that's going to endear himself very much to Babcock, the new head coach there. And I think they're going to lean on him a lot. I think that he's going to get more than the 20 and a half minutes that he got last year as well. I projected Ekholm for 21 and a half basically. So another minute there to get him to 38 points. So I like the player, good shot and chance generator as well. Underrated actually. And does a little bit of everything. Shout out Matthias Ekholm. Sorry that Nathan can't, give you your flowers here, sir. You've had a wonderful career. Let's cap it off with a Stanley Cup. What do you say?
Very nice.
Oh,
Evan Bouchard is next up. 19 goals, 70 assists, 89 points for me. 18 goals, 70 assists, 88 points for you. Pretty tight on the player there. I like Bouchard fine. The problem is that the ADP is definitely caught up. This is a guy who's now going 13.6 in terms of ADP. So what's that? The 202 in your drafts this year. There's definitely, there's not much juice to be squeezed out of this particular lemon at this point in time. That's not to say you can't draft Evan Bouchard at that spot, but it's just a spot where you're probably not going to get extra value on top of that. So I like Evan Bouchard fine. I think he's very reliable. He's going to be in this range. He's probably going to be worth that early second round pick, but he's probably not going to get even beyond that into like first round caliber scoring.
Now you're calling Bouchard a lemon. This is unbelievable.
Just wait till I talk about Wallman.
Okay. Oh, damn. Okay. I am actually excited about that. Yeah. I totally agree with you there. I think he steamed up a little bit more. Like I've had a bunch of different mock drafts here in the APL and, at different positions, and Bouchard just never makes sense to me. I'd rather have like Werenski. Sure. I'll pay up for Werenski. I'll pay up for Makar, obviously. Bouchard and Hughes. It's like, it feels like they're at the bottom of that tier, and it's, I don't know. I'm not talking Yang. I mean, these are amazing players. I think Bouchard has a crazy high ceiling. He has a 100-point ceiling, honestly. I think he could absolutely do that if his power play gets going, even more efficient. But yeah, it's a little bit rich for me. I think, especially with his defensive shortcomings, I don't think that's going to be a problem under the new head coach. I think they know what Bouchard is. That's why he's playing with Ekholm. But, he could kind of piss off the new coach here and there, and maybe that equals a little bit less time. And I don't think he's going to be killing penalties as much as he did last year either. So you lop another bit of ice time off there. Yeah, we're looking at a little bit of a not the same kind of electric season that he had last year.
All right, Jake Wallman, I have for 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points. You have him for 10 goals, 24 assists, 34 points. Wallman was a guy that I kept for pretty hard last year and then just lit it all on fire and had one of the worst seasons I've ever seen. And I'm pretty done with the player, to be honest. I don't like it when people toot directly in my face like that.
It's not good.
That's exactly what he did last year. He was demoted down the lineup, was playing like third pair minutes by the end. They're paying this guy an unbelievable amount of money. Darnell Nurse 2.0 situation on their hands already. Jake Wallman, what do we got, Blake?
Wow. Okay. He definitely did toot in our faces. I just really believe it's hard to play in Edmonton. Like I said, playing with these really good players, it's different. I don't know. Like when he was on San Jose, it was easier for him to make mistakes. And I think, the expectation wasn't Stanley Cup. right? Now you're getting a guy that hasn't played those kind of minutes really, besides his year, last year where he played over 20 minutes for the first time. So yeah, I think he's going to have to step up. We're going to have to see more from Jake Walman here. He can't do what he did last year, but is he going to be able to handle those minutes? I mean, it's not a particularly good defensive player. The jury's kind of out for me. I do like the signing of Ryan Shea. I think that's a really nice piece. And if they do put Jake Walman with Connor Murphy, I think, again, you're getting a good defensive presence in Murphy. So Walman maybe opens him up to get those double-digit goals, which we like for fantasy. But yeah, I mean, in terms of actual defensemen on an NHL team, it's a rough look. And yeah, he's going to have to do some things that he's never done before to really succeed, I think, with his team this year.
All right. Top 3 targets. Give it to me.
Oh, I'm getting it. All right. I'm doing that. I'm giving Zach Hyman number 1. Big Zachariah. He's on fire. I like my 40-goal man, my 40-goal big, beautiful boy. Give me Zach Hyman. Number 2, I'm going Matt Savoie. I just like him as a player of interest. I'm definitely going to be digging in on him in my players of interest series that we'll be doing on YouTube as well. I'm going to look at a deeper look at some of the underlying metrics, but he's great defensively. I think he's going to get prioritized a little bit and recognized by the new head coach, Dingus McGee. And the third one, I'm going Vasily Podkolzin for the Bangs and the potential. I think, yeah, he might just be warming up, right? There's a world in where he's warming up a little bit, and maybe we see a 50-point player playing next to Leon Draisaitl with those same periffs. And if that's the case, that'll play.
All right, for myself, top 3 targets. Number 1 is going to be Leon Draisaitl, even though apparently I dissed the man by putting him in the Celebrity Tour. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one there.
Yeah,
I have seen some of our drafts where Draisaitl has slipped to 6 or 7, and if that happens, you absolutely snap that up because he is one of the most bankable players in the world. Isaac Howard, I have as number 2 because I think this is probably maybe the only guy I think has like real upside from this baseline projection in a best case scenario. And so felt like I kind of had to note him here. Again, not drafting, but keeping an eye on. And Matt Savoie, I agree. I'm interested to see how Babcock might like this player, might elevate him. Maybe in a best case scenario gets even more minutes than the 15 and a half that I have him projected for. So here's to hoping that Babcock does 1 or 2 things right this season.
Here's to feeling good all the time. Oh, I'm stoked to watch the Oilers this year. Just a train wreck in slow motion.
All right. There you have it from a Canucks fan. Let's talk about the Panthers. Yeah, they did do some stuff. They have some key departures here. Mackie Samoskevich is gone. Evan Rodriguez is gone. AJ Greer is gone. And Jesper Boqvist is gone. So the bottom 6 pretty depreciated there. That's not the right word. They have left the building is what I should have said. Key arrivals, obviously, we have Brady Tkachuk leaving the Senators to join the Panthers in one of the more pusillanimous decisions of the offseason. Jacob Markstrom comes over as well to replace Sergei Bobrovsky. I don't know why I completely forgot about Bobrovsky and departures, but there it is. Radko Gudas, Lars Eller, Garnet Hathaway, or Kier Schmid as well, if you care, was added there as well. Blake, what do you think? Obviously, Tkachuk's the headliner, but Markstrom also a chance to be an upgrade over Bobrovsky's last year.
I mean, it just seems like wheels up to me. I had a small conversation on YouTube here earlier today just about the Panthers and the potential this year. And I mean, they got better. They absolutely got better. There's no denying that. So, yeah, it's going to, like, I'm excited to talk about kind of some of the deployment stuff, and it's not going to equal a ton of like fantasy boosts for anybody. In fact, it might go the other way, but in terms of the actual team, they got a lot better. Getting a guy like Brady Tkachuk in the role that they're most likely going to play him in, like that's the role that he needs. He's not a number 1 guy, but to get in here and be able to play like potentially with Barkov and Reinhart and then potentially the power play, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And even the other moves, like getting Radko Gudas, getting Garnet Hathaway, like this team already sucked to play against. And now you got 2 of the biggest ding-dongs out here in Gudas and Hathaway just lighting people up. Like, it's going to be gross playing the Florida Panthers this season. And I do think Markstrom is an upgrade on Bobrovsky as well. And Akira Schmid. I think I can't even say anything bad about what they did. I love Mackie Samoskevich. I'm glad he moved on, to another team with a bunch of middle sixers, and he'll just be another middle sixer, but in Seattle. But that's neither here nor there. Great offseason for Florida. I don't think how we can see it any other way.
Coaching, Paul Maurice returns for his 5th season. The big thing with Maurice that I'm noting here, he has definitely limited 5v5 minutes for his star players in the past. And now you're looking at the deepest top 9 he's ever had. How is he going to split this ice time up? You have Barkov coming off injury. Tkachuk, obviously, Matthew Tkachuk coming off a big injury, plays the last half of last year, but again, a guy that you might want to consider resting for a good chunk of the year. And yeah, it's just an old team. Like, there's no two ways about it. The average age of their big guys is definitely on the higher side relative to some other teams. So I think for me, that's obviously pointing towards just kind of a flattening of the top 9 in terms of the ice time. But where do you see this going, Blake?
Oh man, I don't know. I really feel like last year was an anomaly with the Panthers, right? I mean, this is a team that came off 2 straight Stanley Cups, and the injury to Barkov is a huge one that will tank your season, right? They was gone all season. Maybe could have came back if they were in and around the playoffs, but it didn't make sense. So yeah, that's a huge one. Matt Tkachuk being out as well, like. That's really it. It is that simple, folks. In my opinion, we've got elite coaching with Paul Maurice. This is a guy that's been able to adjust his coaching style to fit the players that he has. He's changed kind of his attitude in the game. This guy's an all-timer on the mic. Like, these guys will run through a wall for him, and that hasn't changed, right? But I do think, like you said, and this elite top 9 that he has, I don't think it's not going to equal higher projections for everyone. It doesn't work that way. Right? There's only so much ice time. So I think one of the things that I like about the Panthers so much, and this is a credit to Paul Maurice, is that everyone on this team understands that you need to play a role, right? Look at Brad Marchand, what he did when he first came over. This guy went from a first liner, first power play, to now he's a third liner with the Panthers, and he excelled in that role. Right? That line was unbelievable, that third line for the Panthers in the playoffs that year. And then next season, you got injury to Barkov, injury to Reinhart. Well, now Marchand comes out and plays one of his best offensive seasons in years. And the underlying metrics were even better. Marchand played unbelievable last year when he was healthy. But I think he's kind of a good representation of how this team plays. If they need something, you do it, right? If you take an elite offensive player like Marchand and put him on the third line, you do it. And I think Brady Tkachuk will do that. I think Matt Tkachuk does that. Matt Tkachuk to me is a 100-point player, but not on this team, right? Because he doesn't need to be. So all that to say, I'm such a fan of Paul Maurice. I think they're going to go off. I think, that their goaltending was terrible last year. Like, goals for percentage plummeted to 47% last year. That was 9th worst in the league last year at 5-on-5. So I don't see how they don't get better. And I'm a big fan of Paul Maurice.
All right. Power play here. I think Matt Tkachuk, Aleksander Barkov, Sam Reinhart, Seth Jones on the back end are the locks here. Any disagreement there, Blake?
No.
All right. Then the only other question I have is Brady Tkachuk for sure the 5th on the power play? Because that is how Twitter would have you believe it, I think. But is that how you see it?
That's how I see it right off the bat, for sure. But we talked about a deep top 9. Like, yeah, we've got Brady Tkachuk out here on power play 1. You still have Brad Marchand. You still have Carter Verhaeghe. You still have Sam Bennett. You still have Anton Lundell. These are all guys that can play power play 1 in some capacity and have in the past. So I think, you're right to say your 4 are locks. Those guys are not moving. But I could see Brady Tkachuk being moved in and out for a guy like Brad Marchand if they want a different look, or Verhaeghe, right? He's played power play 1 at times. I could absolutely see that. So definitely not a lock.
Yeah, I think that's worth noting that they have tried a lot of other guys in that spot. And I just don't see like physically how it makes the most sense for Brady to be that guy because he's not like a puck possession guy. We know the way that Florida likes to set up this power play, and it's been extremely efficient in the past where it's Matt Tkachuk, it's Aleksander Barkov, it's Sam Reinhart in that little triangle they create, and they just snap the puck around until everybody's dizzy and falls over, and then Sam Reinhart puts it in the net. And that has just worked tremendously well for years. So why are they going to change that piece of it? Then it's really about what can you do to play off of that? Can Brady sneak back door? Can he find himself open on the half wall to get a pass? Nobody else has really made a home out of that role and had a consistent impact, positive impact on this power play as a result. And so it is kind of up to him to make what he can of it and see if he can add an element to that power play that hasn't been there before. I think he has a pretty good chance to do that, and I think he probably gets the first look, to your point. But like Brad Marchand also offers things that Brady Tkachuk doesn't in that role. So I think there's definitely some room in my mind that they could move that around if they go through a cold stretch. He's probably the guy that comes off. All right. Let's dig in on some projections. Barkov, I have for 25 goals, 63 assists, 88 points. You have him for 24 goals, 64 assists, and 88 points. See it pretty similarly there. I think I would have been a lot more cautious on Barkov if he hadn't gone to the World Championship and put up, I think it was 11 points
Yeah.
in those games there. Yeah, just immediately looks exactly like his old self in his first action back on international stage. And like, I don't know what you need from Barkov to tell you that he's going to be back. It's not a guy who relies on a ton of speed to play his game either. He's a guy who hits, underrated hitter. I have him for 96 hits, 64 blocks, so provides a little bit of stuff there. Huge member of the power play, as I mentioned, one of the major drivers of their success. All in all, I just think Barkov probably is going to be a lot safer this year than people are going to realize, and for that reason, I'm probably going to have some on my teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're getting him in the fourth round, sometimes in the fifth round. You and I have projected him for like 88 points. There's ceiling there as well. Like, I think he can get up over 90. The problem is injuries, right? Like what we've seen in the past. But yeah, this guy is the engine really that drives the team in transition defensively. He's unbelievable on the forecheck. Like he's a true Florida Panthers player. Like that their style, which is like dump the puck in, swarm the puck, right? Get the puck and make elite passes east west and put the biscuit in the basket, right? He does that so well. Yeah, I have no real qualms. I think, yeah, like this is a guy that could have came back last year potentially, didn't, like we talked about. Yeah, we have to remember that as well. Like he was healthy enough to play during the season, and then he chose to go to the World Championships and play there and played lights out. So I think it's wheels up until something else happens in practice. Oh my God, remember that video when like I had just drafted him as my third round pick in a spot, and I was so excited to get him there. I'm like, how did they let this happen? This is unbelievable. And then he goes down for the entire season. It's just like, oh my God, but that can't happen twice, can it, Nate?
Absolutely not.
Right.
We're knocking on all the wood and, yes, doing all of the rituals necessary to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Very convincing.
The one thing I will say is I think with Barkov in particular, he's the most likely guy to get a little bit banged up, and Paul Maurice will say, you don't need to play this game. So why don't you just sit? And like it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it can be pretty annoying, especially if it's down the stretch. If Florida is as good as we think they could be, and they're sitting pretty for a playoff spot down the stretch, like some of those March, April games, he might just take a seat for a game or two because he got a little nicked up, and Paul Maurice was like, "We don't need you for today. We got Anton Lundell who sits on the third line most of the time, but he can take your role for a game or two. Don't worry about it." So that is the one consideration I will say with Barkov that probably makes me draft him just a little bit lower, but to your point, APL ADP has him in the early fifth round right now. Absolutely
Oof.
smashing that. All right, Brady Tkachuk. This is one that people are pretty interested in for sure. I have him for 32 goals, 36 assists, 68 points. You have him for 36 goals, 34 assists, 70 points. We are pretty tight on the projection there. That includes 20 power play points for me. I don't think this is a guy that's going to like exceed expectations in a big way unless it just works so well from the start. Like he just is a seamless fit with Barkov and Reinhart on the top line. That is something that, Maurice has talked about. And, he thinks that Brady is going to play on that top line, and that's a great place to play hockey for sure. So if that just works right out of the gate, I can see a scenario in which his efficiency gets to places it's never been at in previous seasons in Ottawa. That's definitely a very real possibility, and he could, approach a point per game. But like that's like the absolute ceiling I see for Brady Tkachuk here if everything goes perfect in his first season there. More likely, I think he's going to have a fairly limited role. Like I projected him for 17 minutes, 15 seconds average time on ice. I think there could be a little bit of in and out on the top power play, as we've alluded to. I think that more likely he's going to be closer to 70 than he is to point per game.
Yep, I can't disagree with much there. I think it's a new face in a new place, and this is a team with a clear identity. And Ottawa had an identity as well. They were amazing defensively, so give them credit there, but they're not in the same universe as the Florida Panthers when they're at their best. And Brady Tkachuk has never played with players like Aleksander Barkov and Sam Reinhart. Like that's his potential line. That's what they want. Like he's the third best player on that line. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to me. So I feel like, it's a nice swing to take, but it has to be at value for Brady, right? Like this is a guy obviously shoots the puck from anywhere on the ice. I don't think that's going to change, right? And playing with guys like Barkov and Reinhart, maybe he gets his chances are a little bit better, right? I think he might finally get what's your shooting percentage? I got him for 11.4. That's about as high praise as we can give Brady Tkachuk. That would be the highest
for 12.
Yeah, that would be the highest shooting percentage of his career. So I do think that's something that I think is bankable. He's going to be receiving better passes than he's ever got before. His role is going to be less than what it was in Ottawa, in my opinion, at least offensively. I think he's going to be relied on more as the kind of the grinder, the off the wall guy, the board battle guy, the net front guy. And then, maybe he's put in even better positions with his high danger chances that he can bury. So I like the player a lot. Yeah, it's power play. I gave him 26. I might look at that. Yeah, because even just this is one of those things where we're talking it through and you're like, yeah, you know what? I projected him for 3 minutes and 15 seconds ish on the power play. Maybe closer to 3, right? Even taking that off, maybe I get him down to 24, 23 power play points, and that feels a little bit better for me. And then I'm looking at a 68-point projection the way you have there. So, it's not a guy we should be reaching for. I think there is a ceiling case, but I'm not going to project it this year.
All right, Sam Reinhart, I have for 42 goals, 44 assists, 86 points. You have him for 41 goals, 42 assists, 83 points. Again, one of the more bankable players out there, in my opinion. I like Sam Reinhart where he's been going. I think he's a really solid pick to, just stack up a guy that you feel really confident in. He's been going at 38th, which is
Seems low.
Yeah, that's the early fourth round.
Yeah.
And I'm just all about that with Sam Reinhart. I think he's a bankable point per game player, 40 goal player. Get Barkov back in here to feed him on the power play. Let's get to biz. I think that it's wheels up for Sam Reinhart this year. Potential for even better play from Brady Tkachuk on the other wing at even strength. All of it points to a great season for Sam Reinhart for me.
Yep, a little bit of a bounce back. And he played unbelievable last year when he was in the lineup for Florida. He really took the reins. This guy's minutes went up from, 20 and a half the year before to 21, 17 last year. He did it all. And he doesn't just do it all. He's really good at it all. This guy's amazing in transition. He's an amazing defensive player. And in zone, this guy's lights out. And then he's a great power play performer as well. So lots to like about Sam Reinhart. I don't get why he's being faded in any capacity. I think that Barkov and Reinhart are very safe players for Florida here. They don't have the highest ceilings, but I feel really good, like you said, where both of those players are going. And I think, just getting Barkov back in the lineup for Sam Reinhart, that is going to equal some really good things.
Right, Sam Bennett, I have for 28 goals, 30 assists, 58 points. You have him for 23 goals, 33 assists, 56 points. I think Bennett is a great play. Obviously, the bangers is a big thing there. 225 shots, 135 hits is my projection. 87 PIMs if you're playing in a PIMs league. So all that looks good for him. the acquisition of Brady Tkachuk. Even if he doesn't play with Sam Bennett, it probably just means a better line mate more consistently for Sam Bennett. And so you could view that as a slight positive there. I think he plays roughly what he's done before and just is a very bankable player with a lot of riffs and a pretty solid floor.
Yep. We're just, again, very bankable, very, very safe. But I do think that he's playing with two really good shooters in Matthew Tkachuk and Carter Verhaeghe in particular. Like that's how we've sort of got the lines there. So I think I have him for less goals just because I think he's not going to be the one at the end of those passes. He's going to be kind of facilitating that play in zone. But yeah, I mean, a full season of Matt Tkachuk and Carter Verhaeghe, damn, if Sam Bennett didn't have the amazing playoffs that he did, like we'd be able to get this guy at extreme value, because if you look at the point totals, he's not going off, like 58 points last year in an increased role because of injuries, 51 the year before, 41 the year before, 40 the year before. Like he's not going crazy offensively, and we haven't projected him to do so this year, but because of his big playoffs, I think, you might have to pay up to get a guy like Bennett. And yeah, because of what's going on with the Panthers, I probably won't have too much of Sam Bennett here. Where is he going in the APL ADP? Is that something you can look up quickly there? Because yeah, this is a guy that I think is a little bit of fool's gold in terms of what he actually does for fantasy. I mean, like you said, the perfs are great, but power play numbers and production is not really going to be there.
He's going at 150 in the APL ADP so far, which is pretty solid. That's that's the 13th round, so I think I'm in at that price on Sam Bennett. All right, next up we have Mr. Carter Verhaeghe. I have for 28 goals, 27 assists, 55 points. You have for 27 goals, 29 assists, and 56 points. We see it pretty similarly here. Guy who's going to shoot. I have him for 210 shots, 73 hits, does a little bit of everything. Has fallen off, though, in the last couple of years, and it feels like a sustainable fall off is the way that I'll phrase it. It does seem like he's just, become a less effective player in some regard. Do you think he's still a good player? Just maybe we're not going to get those 70-point seasons again.
Yep. To me, this is a prime example of one of these guys that is starting to play a role for this team, as opposed to doing what he's capable of doing, which I think we've seen, right? And like you said, 70-point seasons. Like he's had years where he's been 60% power play share, 54% power play share. He's had that, right? But I think he's playing more of a role now on this team, and that's fine, right? These guys want to win cups. They don't care about getting 70-point seasons, although they should, because this is our fantasy teams and we need to know what the hell's going on, Carter. But I think another very bankable guy, great even strength shooter. If you look at last year, what he was able to do in a pretty bad environment, honestly, like 59-point pace, 25 goals. I like him for even more. You've got him for 28. I've got him for 27. I think it's a great goal scorer, definitely draftable. Could potentially be moved into the power play if they don't like what Brady's doing there.
All right, Matthew Tkachuk here. I have for 34 goals, 57 assists, 91 points. You have him for 33 goals, 58 assists, 91 points. I think what you said earlier is bang on. I think Matthew Tkachuk is a 100-point player, but he plays for Florida, which means that he's only going to skate 18 minutes a night, and therefore he's not going to hit 100 points. This is, in some cases, it's similar to the Mikko Rantanen situation where we're talking about, him taking a step back from first round draftable to second round draftable just by virtue of the minutes. I think that's kind of the case for Tkachuk here, but he's getting it done on even less minutes. I think this is a really bankable guy in the second round. I've been loving the value that I've gotten on him. He's going at the end of the second round in APL mocks, 23.1 overall, and I think he's easily worth that value because I think there's only really upside from this projection based on what I'm seeing.
I guess that's the adjective we want to use for Florida here. Bankable, right? You pick up any of these guys where they are going in drafts, and I think you're going to be happy with what you have there, right? Matt Tkachuk in the second round, end of the second round, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you said, the only way to go is up. This is a very consistent player. And Matthew Tkachuk's mentals, he is, obviously an all-time dingus, but his mentals are, he's just built for this. He really is. Like, pressure doesn't get to him. And now he's got his brother there. He wants to run it back. He wants to win some more. He knows what it feels like to win. I just think that this is one of the most elite mental, like, fortitude of players that we have in the league. Like, nothing gets him too up or down. He's good to go. And yeah, I think that's really going to benefit him. I think he wants to have a big year here and get this team back to Stanley Cup. And I think they have a really good chance to do it. So 90 plus points for Matthew Tkachuk. Sign me up.
Right. Anton Lundell, I have for 21 goals, 28 assists, 49 points. You have for 19 goals, 22 assists, 41 points. This is one of our bigger differences, 7.6 points difference between us. I think Anton Lundell is probably just going to live in this range. That's my assessment of the situation. I think we've gotten a better version of Anton Lundell. He's matured into the role. I think he is one of those guys who's going to get a pretty consistent role at even strength no matter who all else is in the lineup. And the best case scenario, if somebody gets injured ahead of him, he could get even more. And so on an old team, I think there are probably some situations throughout the year where he probably does get a little bit more average time on ice, and that probably gets him into this 49-point projection for me.
Yeah, I mean, he paced for 56 last year, but with Barkov out, he was playing top line minutes. Like, this guy's, his time on ice went through the roof. He averaged just over 19 minutes, had a 46% power play share, which, yeah, you'd like to see more. And he got a career high in power play points as well, 15 power play points. But that's how he got to a 56-point pace. Like, now that everybody's healthy and they're bringing the squad back, I feel like his line, even with Marchand there, that's going to be a third line grind line. And yeah, I'm sure they'll dominate teams in expected goals for percentage, Corsi for percentage, all that stuff. Like, they're great in transition as well. But I'm failing to see how he's going to even repeat what he was able to do last year in a 56-point pace. Like, you got him for 49, so you're regressing him a little bit there. I just think that this is an example of a player that is really good in real life. And for fantasy, like, he's playing a role on this team. And with all these players coming back, his role goes back down to checking third line center. And those power play points, like 15 power play points, that goes away. I've halved that, or even less. I've got him for 6 power play points. What'd you get him for?
I've got it for 10 there because, yeah, I think that part I don't think is going to go away. I think he has matured into a player who takes a bigger percentage of the power play when he's on it. And even if that is the second power play unit, I do think he can still get to 10 power play points. That's probably the higher side of the projection for me. I think we're probably closer in terms of the even strength and the shorthanded stuff that he's definitely also going to bring to the table. I have him for almost 3 shorthanded goals, which is obviously more than most players get. I mean, it's a 49-point projection at the end of the day. I don't think this is a guy I'm going to be drafting anywhere, but I do think that we've also seen the proof of concept of this third line just being unbelievably efficient for stretches, and it wouldn't shock me if he goes on a 20-game run where he scores 18 points, and that's already like over a third of this projection. So yeah, I just think there's a few ways that he kind of exceeds what might look a little bit more like a high projection for a third line center. Brad Marchand next up. I have him for 29 goals, 39 assists, 68 points. You have him for 25 goals, 33 assists, and rounding down to 57 points. So this is one of the bigger ones we will probably have all year. I have him for 10.6 more points than you do. So that's definitely worth digging into. I'm for 18.4 power play points. Let's start there. What did you get Marchand for on the power play?
16.5.
Okay, so actually not that far off there. So it is a bit more at even strength, I'm assuming. I've gone for 13 minutes time on ice, 72% IPP, 12% on ice shooting percentage.
Let me see. Sorry, I was looking at something else. I've got him for 13.8 time on ice, 68% IPP, 10.9 on ice shooting percentage.
Well, there's your first mistake. We've solved the case. Yeah, I think a few things. I think Marchand really showed us something. I think he's a fit with Paul Maurice's system. He has that unbelievable playoff run. He has a great year last year. I think he just fits like a glove. So that's definitely baked into the sauce here for me, is that I believe what I saw from Brad Marchand last year. I do think he plays on this third line. I think again, similar to what I said about Lundell, I think we've seen that can actually work. And if Lundell goes on a run where he scores 18 points in 20 games, I think Marchand goes on a run where he scores 25 points in 20 games at some point. So that's probably the majority of how I get to this projection here. I don't think there's a lot of upside from this projection. I will say that. It's definitely more towards the top end of what I think is possible for Brad Marchand. But I do believe pretty heavily that he's fully capable of another 68-point season.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I think he's capable of a 68-point season. I think that the role is completely different this year compared to what it was last year, what he was asked to do, right? And, I will stipulate as well, like there's a chance that he goes to the second line and plays, with Matt Tkachuk and Sam Bennett. There's a chance he goes to the first line and Brady gets bumped to play. Like that's all we have to bake that in, right? And I think I still did that. Like 57 points for Brad Marchand, in his age 38 year with the Panthers. Like I feel good about that. But yeah, I mean, I look at some of the things here, like the on-ice shooting percentage. What did you have for him again at even strength?
12.
Yeah. I mean, it was 12.64 last year. And that was the second highest mark of his entire career. So, that's kind of where I had to regress that. And you did too. You regressed it, but I just regressed it more because of the role and the players that I'm projecting that he's going to play with. If I'm projecting him to play with Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen, like, yeah, that's not the same as playing with Sam Bennett and Carter Verhaeghe, right? Or Sam Reinhart. It's just not. And so those are not efficient players. So that's kind of where I'm at. I love the player, and I do agree with you that he is capable of it, right? We've seen that. And like last year was unbelievable. He was like best of the best in a lot of metrics. Brad Marchand at age 37. So he still got it. And I agree with you as well. He's a fit in this team. He gets in where he fits in. He just wants to win. But I think our difference here is what role is he going to play?
Obviously not looking at that all three zones player card for Brad Marchand because
you have to actually
something to behold.
It's beautiful.
A lot of blue on that card is what I'll say. Yeah, I think it's going to work for Brad Marchand. Maybe 68 points is a little hot, but I think
tattoo bet.
60s.
We'll do a tattoo bet like old times, Nate. What do you think?
Like old times.
Over under 60?
I think you're losing that one, but I'm not taking
overs
All right.
No, that's
in
fine.
August. Eetu Luostarinen, just quickly here, I have for 13 goals, 23 assists, 36 points. You have for 10 goals, 21 assists, 31 points. Best case scenario, deep league streamer pick. I don't think there's a lot of situations in which you do that, but does provide the hits and the blocks. 133 hits, 66 blocks is what I have him for. So deep bangers, Cats league streamer potential for Eetu Luostarinen.
Great player.
All right, Gustav Forsling, I have for 9 goals, 23 assists, 32 points. You have him for 9 goals, 22 assists, 31 points. A good player, not going to see power play time. Is actually a pretty decent shot producer. I have him for 157 shots.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it ends. I think he'll be very close to this 32-point projection, 31 for you. He's going to be right in that range with not much room for error on either side.
One of the best defensive defensemen in the league. Means nothing for fantasy, but that's fine.
Yeah. Aaron Ekblad, I have for 5 goals, 27 assists, 32 points with the round down there. You have for 6 goals, 29 assists, and 35 points. This is just who Ekblad is. Low shot totals, about 112 hits and 118 blocks for me, 71 PIMs as well. So it does a bit of all of that. There's just not a lot of upside here. I think, as we've talked about, Jones is locked into the top power play. I've said this before, but Ekblad had like one big year for fantasy, and everybody just thought he was somebody that he pretty clearly is not, at least on the Florida Panthers. And that's pretty much all we have to judge him by. So Aaron Ekblad, I think, is a guy who can live on your team when Florida has a good schedule, can be your fourth defenseman in some of those situations, but definitely not a guy that I'm anticipating to hang on to all year.
Yeah, very one-dimensional player. There are much better options out there. I don't even think I'd have him on my team unless he was power play 1, and even then, I'm not excited about it.
All right, Seth Jones, last one here. I have for 9 goals, 43 assists, 52 points. You have him for 12 goals, 40 assists, and 52 points. So pretty consistent there. 22 power play points, 164 shots is not too bad. 92 hits, 99 blocks. So kind of run-of-the-mill stuff there, really, from Seth Jones. But all that put together, like, I feel like it's a pretty bankable profile. I think he's going to go relatively late for a power play one defenseman. And whenever you're taking a power play one defenseman kind of later on, I feel like you're just going to be relatively happy to have banked somebody who you feel pretty confident in the role for. I'm going just outside the 7th round, early 8th round in the APL mocks so far. I think that's about right for Seth Jones. Maybe a little higher if I needed a defenseman. I'm hoping to get him to fall a little bit later, but that's probably about where he'll live.
Yeah. Again, not an exciting player, but you're right. It's a power play one defenseman on a power play that should be pretty darn good. He's got a really deceptive shot. He's good at getting it through there from the points, and yeah, I think we're going to see a potential. Like what's his career high? 57 points. Yeah, we're close. We got 52. I mean, I think it's in the wheelhouse, right? This is a great situation for him if all things go well. But yeah, Seth Jones, 47 hits, 61 blocks. How dare you? Oh, 52 games, right? Okay. What do you think? What do you think the Panthers right now, like, are they, like, who's your Stanley Cup favorite? Because
oh man,
I have to get the Panthers in there. Like, obviously we've been talking about it. I don't have much to say other than, like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. This is going to be great. And I hope that at the end of the day, it's not like, oh, they missed the playoffs, like the team imploded. Like, how truly bankable do you think this team is as a Stanley Cup contender?
I mean, we saw that it's not bankable last year. Brady Tkachuk doesn't make that go away on his own. So I think that's a real thing that you have to consider. But I do agree that they probably got better goaltending with Markstrom this year than what they've gotten out of Bobrovsky, even the last 2 years, to be honest, outside of the playoffs. As long as people stay relatively healthy, I think they're pretty bankable as a Stanley Cup contender. I'm not going to say that they're my favorite because I do think it's just so hard to make that proclamation in August. I think there are a lot of other teams that could lay a very credible claim to being one of the Stanley Cup contenders, and maybe you could argue some of the others over the Florida Panthers, just given the age of the core here. Mm-hmm. So I think they're in contention. I'd probably put them in the top 5 to 7 for sure. But
wow, what a risk taker you are, Nate.
Aside from that, I'm not willing to give them their laurels just yet. And it might just be that the Florida Panthers have hurt me personally with their treatment and abusement of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the past, but that is how I'm going to stand on that.
That's fair.
All right. Top 3 targets, Blake. Give it to me.
Okay, I'm going to give it to you, Nate. Matthew Tkachuk, number 1, like the value there. Barkov, really like the value there. We're talking about Matt Tkachuk in the 2nd, Barkov in the 5th, and then Sam Reinhart as my 3rd. Yeah, we're getting him in the 3rd. This is crazy stuff, folks. You got to be in on the Panthers this year.
Yeah, can't argue too much there. I think Tkachuk is going at the end of the 2nd when he should be in the mid-2nd. That high in the draft, that actually an appreciable difference for me. So I do think that's a real plus for Matt Tkachuk, where he should be going versus where he is going. Aleksander Barkov, again, Sam Reinhart. I just think that these 3 guys in particular are going to be the engines of this team once again, and the team is going to work, and they're going to score a lot of goals. So that's what I've thought about that. We made it to the end of another long episode. Check the description, join the Patreon, join the APL. There's going to be lots of good stuff coming up there. Make sure you're signed up so that you don't miss anything. There's also a link in the description for the Discord. If you could like, rate, subscribe, whatever is available to you as a potential thing. Don't forget to comment any of our projections that you really disagreed with. Tell Blake why he's wrong about Brad Marchand. He loves to hear that. So any of that would be super helpful to us as we continue to grow this thing. But that is going to be all that we got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. All the micro stats you heard came from all 3 zones. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.